Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. We are here once again, Tuesday or Thursday, January 30th, to discuss another day in the global capital equity markets. And we have a lot to discuss the day after JPOW, Microsoft, Meta, and Tesla. There was no intro today, okay? And the reason there was no intro is, well, two reasons. Number one, I don't like the intro that we did yesterday. I think it's a little too long. I was listening back to the screen and I was like, this is too long, dude. This is like a 35-second intro. This needs to be shorter. And I don't know. I just think I didn't like it. I think it needed to be a little shorter. Sometimes you have an idea of it, you use it, and then you listen back to it. I'm like, this is just too long every day. I don't want to do this every single day, have the same song. So I'm working on a new intro. It is what it is. It's an executive decision. You know, Trump can sign executive orders. I can make some executive decisions about the show. I didn't feel it every single day listening to this. I was like, this is too long to get started on the show every day. I didn't love it. So we did do the 10-second countdown, which actually, to be honest, solves the issue because the whole issue of the delay is resolved when you have a 10-second countdown to get started. So technically you don't need the intro, but I might work on a different intro over the weekend. So we'll see how that goes. Again, when I listened to it back, I was just like, this is not every single day. I don't want to hear this exact same thing. And it's too long, bro. It's 35 seconds. Like, you don't need that long of an intro. So this is the world of being a creator. When you're creative and you try stuff, you experiment with stuff, you might like it, you might not like it. And so, yeah, we're gonna have a different intro and figure out what it looks like. Regardless, we are here. We are live. Rest in peace. Intro lasted shorter than the DeepSeek scare. Yes, that is true. It lasted shorter than the DeepSeek. Dude, this is really what it's like being a creative, dude. Sometimes you're gonna like stuff. I delete tweets sometimes if I don't like how the tweet looks, even though I like the concept of the tweet. Like this is the nature of being a creative person and being into content. Like sometimes you like stuff, sometimes you don't, but you have to experiment and try. So I know some of you guys like the intro, but to be honest, it was just too long. In my opinion, it was just way too long. And I'm like, I don't want to have to sit through this every single day. And so we're going to try experimenting with something new. Regardless, good morning. It is Thursday, January 30th. We have a lot to discuss. Yesterday was one of the most wild days in the stock market in 2025. And quite frankly, we got earnings that were very surprising. First of all, Meta reported 30 minutes late. No idea why. They didn't give an explanation for why they were late, by the way. I don't know if anyone caught an explanation, but I didn't get an explanation. But Zucks just came 30 minutes late, and then he smashed on earnings, and Meta crushed $700. They're back below that right now, but they hit an all-time high after hours. So regardless of Meta being late, incredible earnings from them. Microsoft, good earnings, not incredible. Guidance was a little That's why Microsoft was down 5%. And then Tesla, quite frankly, their earnings, the numbers were not good. They missed EPS badly. They missed revenue by $2.5 billion. The only reason they were operating income positive is because of their unrealized assets or gains on Bitcoin. So like the numbers just kind of honestly sucked on Tesla. But my goodness, when you talk about Elon being able to paint a vision, he painted a vision, and Tesla is the only stock that's green, or at least significantly green after earnings from the big three that reported at 4.5% up right now. And we'll talk about why Tesla painted a vision that was pretty exciting from yesterday. NVIDIA right here down about 0.6%. I did buy more NVIDIA yesterday after hours. I now have 350 shares of NVIDIA. I think my average is $127. NVIDIA right here down about 0.6%. We'll talk about why NVIDIA is down and why it fell 5% yesterday. It had to do with Microsoft, and it also had to do with export controls that the Trump administration is looking into. Microsoft right here down 4.6%. Guidance wasn't good. We'll talk about that. And then Meta crushed it. I mean, they should crush $700 today. They were just $715 yesterday after hours, up 2.7%. Absolutely smashed earnings. But we'll discuss some of the issues the street might have going forward with their Q1 guidance. Broadcom's up 5.3%. That's because Meta said they're going to use more Broadcom. AMD's up a little bit. Hoodie is at $52. We'll talk about Hood. The thesis continues to get stronger and stronger for Robinhood. This one doing very well. Micron's up a little bit. ASML is up a little bit. Rocket Lab's up a little bit. Grab another green day in a row, which is not too bad, up 0.5%. The S&P 500 up 0.33%. And then Bitcoin right here, 104.9. We'll have more to talk about because we do have some updates in the world of crypto. All right. Good morning. Let's get into this and discuss everything that we have to get into. I'm Beneficial. What's up? Martin, June. Good morning. Hiren, Ty, Matthew, Reggie, Ray, OJ, Jersey Guido. What's up? Jarno, Philip, good morning. Bsoft, thank you for being here. Kaus, Vibob, Frank, Noland, Jeremy, what's up? Oh, it's also Thursday, so we're going to get money market fund data soon today after the bell. Very curious to see if we increase or decrease. Last week, January 23rd, we increased by 41 billion. So today after the bell, we'll get that data. Also today after the bell, we're going to get Apple earnings, which is a big one. Visa, which is a big one in the payment space. And Intel, which is a big one because everyone just wants to know what the hell is going to happen with Intel. So Apple today after the bell is going to be very important. We did have already MasterCard, Caterpillar, UPS, Shell, and Altria Group. So we'll take a look at those earnings in just a bit. Also, we had Southwest we'll discuss. But yesterday's earnings were some of the biggest earnings that we will keep going through here today. Mario, good morning. Tony, Vix. I love your name is Vix. That's great. That's definitely the name you need to have in this world of volatility. Stephen, what's up? Imran, Jamie, Seth, Jody, Philip, good morning. Thank you all for being here today. Tess, Tim, Andreas, General Weenus. By the way, General Weenus was at the market, the meetup of people who tend to be in the Market Open stream in New York. So I got to see General Weenus in real life. And it was so funny because he was like, I'm General Weenus. I was like, General Weenus, it's been 3 years. I've been waiting to see you. Here we go. So shout out to General Weenus, the most epic name in the chat. And it was awesome to see you at New York a couple weeks ago. Okay, so the San Francisco meetup, I didn't send the link in the chat yesterday because I forgot. So remind me towards the end of the market close today, I will send the link in the chat. And the Bay Area Google Form meetup will officially be live. I'll probably send it in like an hour in the chat. And then we'll get started with setting up that process for meeting up in California, which will likely be February 13th. Not the official date. You'll get details probably on Saturday on the official date, but February 13th, Palo Alto, downtown. That's likely where the meetup is going to be. All right, let's get started. So I think we need to get started with Tesla out of all of them. Well, really the big three, but we'll get started with Tesla. Microsoft, Meta, Tesla, incredible earnings from all of them. From a qualitative perspective, quantitatively, Microsoft and Meta were a bit better than Tesla. I want to play a small clip on what Elon started off the call by saying yesterday, and then we'll keep going from there. Here's Elon's kind of opening statement on where he thinks the future of Tesla is going.
I see a path. I'm not saying it's an easy path, but I see a path to Tesla being the most valuable company in the world by far. Not even close. Like maybe several times more than. I mean, there is a path where Tesla is worth more than the next top 5 companies combined. There's a path to that. I mean, I think it's like an incredibly, it's like a difficult path, but it is an achievable path. And that is overwhelmingly due to autonomous vehicles and autonomous humanoid robots. So our focus is actually building towards that, and that's what we're laying the ground. We lay the groundwork for that in 2024. We'll continue to lay the groundwork for that in 2025. In fact, more than lay the groundwork, actually, so we're building the structure. We're building the manufacturing lines, I'd like setting up for what I think will be an epic 2026 and a ridiculous 27 and 28. Ridiculously good.
You can't say that he doesn't know how to sell his vision. Now, Joseph Carlson here said yesterday, he's historically been rather not a fan of Tesla, but he put out some numbers to make sense of this. If Tesla is going to be bigger than the top 5 companies in the world, the top 5 companies did $335 billion in free cash flow in the trailing 12 months. Tesla did $4 billion. Tesla can't see the nearest real-world AI competitor with a telescope, which is what Elon said. And then he mentions, well, Waymo's doing 150,000 paid robotaxi rides every week. Tesla's doing 0. And then Joseph Carlson is calling a little bit of BS on this idea that Optimus could potentially generate 10 to 20 trillion in revenue, which is what Elon said yesterday. Obviously, if you were doing 10 to 20 trillion in revenue, you would have hundreds of billions of dollars in net income, which means the multiple that you put on that would put your market cap in the 20s of 30s of trillions, which I know sounds crazy. And Elon knows it sounds crazy as well. But nonetheless, that is what he spent a lot of time on the call talking about yesterday. Now, what are my perspectives on this and what are my thoughts? And I know half of you guys probably think these are pipe dreams. Half of you guys think these could be real. Look, I think you have to take the numbers with a grain of salt. Obviously, $10 to $20 trillion of revenue is not coming overnight. However, what is the point of the stock market? The point of the stock market is to bet on future growth and, quite frankly, to bet on potential. And so does Tesla deserve to be trading at 185 times next year's earnings? Probably not from a quantitative perspective. But if you believe in the potential, like, do you think Microsoft could be a $20 trillion company? I don't, personally. I don't think that could happen. Do I think Tesla could be a 20 trillion? Like, if I, like, gun to my head, if I had to pick one or the other for 20 trillion, I would pick Tesla. And I think because people are buying into that story, they're buying into that narrative, that is what's keeping the stock elevated. Because quite frankly, if it was not for Elon doing the pumpy pump that he did at the beginning of the show, at the beginning of his show on the earnings call, which, by the way, he was on Twitter during the earnings call, which Elon's just having fun with this. But he was responding to political memes and laughing while he was on the earnings call, and someone called him out on it because they could see that he was obviously tweeting while he was live on the call. But ultimately, Elon believes that there is that potential. And if Elon believes that there is that potential, that is why the market is getting, or at least some parts of the market are getting excited to buy into that. If that wasn't the case, I think Tesla would be down $100 right now. And Tesla was close. Tesla was down at 368 last night on the initial numbers, because the numbers were bad. Like, they were not good, missed revenue by 2.5 billion. But Elon gets on the call and he starts waxing poetic, and the street starts to forget about it. This is what Farzad said. Elon responded a 100 emoji to some political meme. And Farzad said, "Bro, get off X, you're on an earnings call." And then Elon just laughs at it. It's just like, it's kind of insane, bro. It's getting to the point where he really does not care anymore about the formalities of an earnings call. It's his world, and he's going to do whatever he wants. Now, this was the one line out of the call. There's a couple quotes that I want to talk about. This quote is the quote that I love the most. Look, I'm a sucker for a good line. Okay, that's how I have all this energy in the morning. There's a good line, and you do a little snorty snort, and then you're good to go for the morning open. But Elon Musk on the Tesla call just now, he says, "I know people say I'm the boy who cried wolf, but I'm telling you, there is a damn wolf, and the wolf can drive you autonomously." This line, I mean, I come from a debate background. I come from a communication background. I need to get excited when it comes to perceptual dominance. There were times in my debating career when I would have these like mic drop moments, and I would wait for the judge to see if they would like look up from the notes they were taking, and I could tell, damn it, that line just won me the round. I could tell it. That line just won me the round. This line, I think, won Elon the earnings yesterday. Because it's acknowledging that you are the person that has all these crazy ambitious timelines, and you're the boy who cried wolf, which is, crying for this thing that says is going to happen but is never going to happen. And then Elon says, no, there is a wolf, and that wolf essentially can drive you autonomously, aka FSD. I liked it. I like that line a lot. And you could, if you actually go back to the earnings call, the exact minute that Elon begins saying this, which is like within the first 45 seconds of his opening statement, and then he goes into this whole idea that Tesla can be more valuable than the top 5 companies on the planet, you start to see a reversal. You start to see a real reversal. Then we gap up to 413, and then it came back down to like 405. But nonetheless, that was one of the things that was exciting from Elon. And again, I'm experiencing FSD every day, so I agree that the wolf is real. It's just a question of when that wolf is going to result in increased earnings growth. Tesla is the only growth stock in the United States, forget the United States, in the world that is not growing. I mean, I'm sure there's other growth stocks technically that are not growing, but it's one of the only high profile names that is growing negative 8% year over year, trading at a 200 or 50 or 150 PE. I mean, it is, what's Tesla's PE? Tesla's PE right now is 150. So, this is why people say the valuation is ridiculous, but if we're betting on potential, then we're betting on something greater than 150 PE. Now, he also gave us a launch date for unsupervised FSD. That is going to be happening in June of 2025. It is also going to be happening in Texas. Elon said this is not some mythical thing. We will be live in the next 5 months. So Elon was very serious about the idea that the age of autonomy is here. He even mentioned that he thinks there will be more places besides Texas where FSD launches by the end of the year. That, I think he's being a little bit too ambitious on. I don't know if we're going to get, he said there's going to be multiple parts of the country that are going to be covered with unsupervised FSD. That, I don't know. There's too many regulatory hurdles there. Texas, they can probably get done. California, they can probably get done. But to say it's going to happen everywhere else or in like even another 20, 30 places, I think it's going to be a little tough. If it happens, it'd be amazing. But I think if they can just get Texas out of the way and show people that robotaxis are on the road, then that would be an important thing. Final 2 quotes. Elon says, we are seeing significant interaction or interest from other auto companies for licensing or FSD technology. He says, I think the reason for this is because most of them are realizing that without FSD, you are dead. So again, Elon making the argument that FSD and autonomy is going to be the overarching reason for how Tesla creates and generates the majority of its value. And then finally on Optimus, which by the way, I did say yesterday, I think the wild card is going to be Elon pumping Optimus. And I expected a little bit of a pump. I did not expect them to spend almost 7 minutes discussing Optimus in depth, but they did. And quite frankly, the reason they did is because you need something to believe in because the numbers sucked. And Optimus numbers don't suck. They feel like it's the most magical business model in the world if it can happen. And I'm not going to lie, I felt like buying some Tesla as soon as he started talking about this, because one of the reasons I really wanted to begin buying Tesla this year is because of Optimus. It's not real yet, but Elon gave us a little bit of color on this. So he said, right now we are just focused on Optimus doing the most boring tasks in our Tesla factory internally, the stuff that no one wants to do. Optimus is very happy to do all the boring jobs. Our goal is to build a production line that can scale from 10,000 to 100,000 units a month. This is a rough guess, but I think we can start delivering robots to other companies by the second half of next year, which would be incredible if Tesla starts recognizing revenue by the second half of 2026. The street has not priced that in my opinion. And if they're delivering, call it 10 to 100,000 units every single month when it comes to robots. And he says it'll cost us about 20,000 to make them. Demand will not be a problem. Again, Elon making the argument that humanoid robotics are real. The numbers get wonky. This is where you get to $10-20 trillion in revenue. I went through a deep dive on how humanoid robotics can get to that type of a market cap a long time ago. It's not that insane what Elon's talking about 10 to 20 trillion. It sounds insane because it's going to take a hell of a lot of execution to get there. But the demand for this product and the marketplace for the physical embodiment of AI is real. It is out there and companies are working on it. The question is just going to be, can Elon execute to that level? So look, here's going to be the first poll of the chat. Let's see what you guys are thinking, but I think it'll probably be 50-50 on, do you believe in these ambitious goals set by Elon? Because I think we can all be objective here, even the biggest of Tesla bulls, that there's no way in hell this stock would be up right now if it were not for the qualitative assessments that Elon made. There's just no way. Do you believe in Elon's statements? I mean, dude, they missed badly on earnings. Like this was like we saw the results and I was like, oh, wow, this hasn't, like Tesla hasn't missed like this in like over a year. Like 2024 had some crappy earnings. This was bad. This was like not good. Now, one thing that was good is that their cost of goods sold came down to be their lowest ever, which was very good, right? Because even with all the 0% APRs, price cuts, et cetera, incentives, they made it come down. But the raw numbers just sucked. They weren't the best. But again, I mean, I'm like, there's a lot of companies out there where valuations are aggressive and expensive, but people buy it for other reasons. And, when you got a cult like Tesla, people are going to buy it and believe in the vision of Elon. I believe in the vision of Elon as well. I don't think it's happening tomorrow. And I quite frankly, I think what's happening is people want to reserve their spot in the Tesla line, because if he's right, and it does play out the way he's playing out. Again, he said 2026 is going to be wild. 27 to 2028 is going to be ridiculous in his words. And 2025 is going to set the foundation for the back half of this decade to be as incredible as it's going to be. If you believe in that, and you believe it's inevitable that FSD is going to work, you believe it's inevitable that robotics are going to become a thing, there is not many companies in the stock market that have exposure to all of that stuff. Amazon kind of has some exposure to that, but it's not at the level that Tesla does. Google, I mean, you got to believe Waymo versus robotaxis. And I mean, then it comes down to, do you believe in LiDAR technology? Like it gets super nuanced. And what do you believe in from a company that is purely executed on the autonomy front with neural nets, or a company that's using it as a side bet, aka Google? And you've got to ask yourself, what other companies in the world have a TAM as large as Tesla? Even Nvidia, I don't think has the Tesla type of TAM, even though, to be honest, if Elon's producing 500% more robots year over year, which is what he said yesterday, there's going to be some GPUs that are purchased, and maybe it doesn't only come from NVIDIA, but there's going to be some more demand for NVIDIA from the entire sector. So I do think that will help NVIDIA over the long term as well. But it's Tesla. They've got the potential. They've got the potential. And if you don't believe in that, then you don't buy Tesla and you wait for it to crash and burn. But if you do believe in that, I think that's why Tesla continues to be green right now in the pre-markets. 56% of you say yes, you believe in Elon's statements. 44% of you say no. 30 and a wake up said it's not just about selling bots, it's about bots building bots, ridiculous scalability and gross margins. I agree. It's also about bots building the cars, which would be incredible. It's also about the idea that Tesla uniquely has an AI model that can create the brain for a bot. Speaking of AI models that can create a brain for a bot, let me show you guys this headline real quick, and then we'll finish with Tesla and we'll go to Microsoft and Meta. SoftBank is considering investing into a company at a $4 billion valuation. The company is called Skid AI. And the goal of this company, I haven't looked too into them, but I found this headline this morning. They are building an artificial intelligence brain for robots. And SoftBank's thinking of giving them a $4 billion valuation. Now, why does this matter? Because the fact that other startups are seeing an opportunity in the humanoid robotic space and they're trying to approach it from a software perspective, it shows that a lot of people are realizing demand for this product is real. What's also important about this is Tesla is literally building the same exact brain or the concept of a brain with XAI. OpenAI has a bunch of robotic engineering job listings because they're trying to build a brain for their robots via GPT. So if we assume this industry is inevitable, what company in the public markets has exposure to it? Because there's a bunch of startups that have exposure to it, but even OpenAI is not public, right? So like, what company has exposure? Google had a partnership with Aptronic the other day, which is another humanoid robotic startup, which is cool, but like that's not the Tesla type of exposure where they're literally internally building it. And so we're gonna see how this ends up playing out. But overall, it is pretty incredible to kind of get the vision from Elon. Will it become executed? Is what you either invest or don't invest for. But Elon pumped it. That's what I got to say. Elon freaking pumped it. And if it was not for this Elon pump, I do not think we would see Tesla stock being green right now. But it is green because Elon pumped it the way they needed to do. It's not a physical brain. It's going to be an AI brain, right? It's going to be an AI brain that's attached into the robots. Essentially a model. They're talking about a model that is meaningful enough. Like FSD has its own model. ChatGPT has its own model. Grok has its own model. Optimus would have its own model that is suited for an actual physical robot to be able to interact in the real world. And that's not going to be easy to build. And that's going to take a lot of GPUs to build. It's going to take a lot of inference training to build. But if it does get built and we're shipping billions of robots in the next 2 decades, I mean, you would think that Tesla takes up a decent amount of that demand long-term as well. Okay, so that's what we got in the context of Tesla. Let's move to Microsoft and Meta. Before that, real quick, we do have some macro data, so let me pull that up. Not that surprising of macro data. It's nothing too crazy that happened, but here is what we're looking at. GDP came in at 2.3% versus at 2.6% expectations. We saw this from the Atlanta Fed yesterday, so it's not like this was too much of a surprise. So a little bit lower than expectations on GDP. Personal consumption came in at 4.2% versus 3.2%, so people are spending a bit more. PCE, again, 4.2%, and then core PCE was at 2.5, so that was a little bit, or that was in line with expectations. PCE on the top line was a bit higher than expectations. Not numbers that really move the markets in any certain direction. Now, trading economics also shows us a couple of headlines. The European Central Bank lowered their key interest rate by 25 bips in January of 2025. This comes after the Bank of Canada also lowered their interest rates. So it's nice to see that more central banks across the entire world are lowering their interest rates. Because hopefully that will get J-PAL to eventually lower them. And we'll talk about J-PAL in just a little bit. But we do have the ECB and the Bank of Canada lowering the rates. And on top of that, we had the jobless claims, which also came in better than expected. The jobless claims today were about 7,000 of a beat versus what we thought. So they were at 207,000. The market thought it would be 224,000. So actually that's almost 15,000 better than what we thought we would get. This is good news, right? Because that means less people are unemployed. Now, theoretically, at least a month ago, that would be bad news because that means there's more inflation. But I think the market's kind of gotten over that because they're seeing inflation come down without the necessity to have massive unemployment to make inflation come down. But that is the macro data for today. Jobless claims was better than expected. PCE was in line with expectations. GDP growth slightly lower than expectations for Q4, but we kind of already knew that was going to happen yesterday, so that wasn't too big of a surprise to the broader markets. So that's what we got in the context of macro data. All right, cool. So Meta and Microsoft. Meta and Microsoft. And we'll talk about the other earnings that we had this morning as well. We had MasterCard. Well, actually, let's just take a look at those quick stocks that reported this morning. So MasterCard had earnings. MasterCard is green by 0.86%. Let me pull up their numbers real quick. Let's just read the headlines on those. MasterCard beat on EPS 382 versus 369, and then revenue 7.48 versus 7.38 billion. So a double beat, which continues the trend. Again, we talked about it yesterday. 80% of companies that have reported so far have beat on the top and the bottom line, which is amazing. And they beat by an average of 7%. So no one can say Q4 earnings growth is not really being as strong as what the market wanted to be. Altria Group, EPS was 129 versus 128. That is a beat. This is a stock that Steve loves a lot. They are down 3%. Now, they were up like 30% last year, so makes sense. They might have been priced for perfection. Revenue was also beat, 5.1 versus 5.05 billion. That's a beat. Mobileye, 13 cents versus 11 cents. That's a beat. 490 million versus 478 billion. That is also a beat. Another double beat. Their stock is down 8%. Don't know why they're down 8%. Might have to do something with guidance. But Mobileye on a double beat is down. Southwest Airlines, which, by the way, speaking of airlines, I don't know if people saw the headline, but the American Airlines flight crashed at a airport in DC yesterday. And from my understanding, everyone on the flight died. About 61 people. It was a commercial passenger flight. There was I believe, either jet or helicopter in the sky that somehow crashed into them. I don't want to share the video because it's pretty graphic, but anyone can find it. And a lot of bodies were having to be taken out of the river nearby. So a Blackhawk ran into an American Airlines flight. 67 people. That was pretty bad news yesterday, dude. I mean, Trump issued a statement. He said, "May God rest their souls." I mean, just no one imagines when they're on a flight about to land that the landing. This is why every time I'm on a flight, and I've been on many flights in my life, when you land, you always just are like, you give yourself a little bit of like, all right, we got here safe and sound. Because even if you're used to flights, you just never know, dude. You never know. Like the fact that humans get into this tube and this tube goes into the sky and the sky goes across the world and then it lands. I mean, it's just absolutely insane that we've been able to create that level of innovation, but it also comes with risks. And so definitely was some sad news that happened there yesterday, late last night. Southwest Airlines, another airline company, they're down 1.58%. They missed on revenue by a slight amount, 6.93 versus 6.95, and they beat on EPS by 9 cents, 56, or by 10 cents, 56 cents a share versus 46 cents. So the only airline that really did a good job this quarter was United and Delta. The rest of them have been a little wonky with their guidance and with their EPS beats or revenue misses. But JetBlue really sucked yesterday. They were down 20%. But United and Delta, the best of the best, have done relatively strong in the airline space. So that's what we got in the context of earnings here today. Landing and takeoff are the highest chances of a crash. Yeah, dude. And every time, I've had to been on at least like 300, 400 flights in my life. I did a lot of traveling back in high school when I was traveling for debate tournaments. And every time you go up and you go down, you just never know, right? So you always want to hope that you're in a decent situation. And it's just sad. It's just very, very sad to see some of that stuff happening at the end of the day. Okay, cool. So that was the earnings data from this morning. Meta and Microsoft. Let's talk about them. So Meta crushed it. Absolutely crushed it. Couple highlights from their earnings call. First of all, they beat revenue by $2 billion. They beat EPS by $2, which is insane, dude. They made $8 a share. I mean, like, what more can you ask for if you're a Meta shareholder, right? Like, literally, what more can you ask for? The most important things that Meta did was that they reaffirmed their 60 to 65 billion in Capex guidance, which was obviously good for NVIDIA. So NVIDIA was up 2% after hours. We'll talk about why NVIDIA is down right now. But as soon as Meta said that, NVIDIA gapped up to 127. Zuckerberg opened his statements on the call by saying, this is going to be a really big year for AI. I want 1 billion of our users to access artificial intelligence. We have some fun surprises that I think people are going to like this year. The fact that he wants 1 billion people out of the 4 billion people that use Meta, so 25% of their users, to access AI, guess what Zucks is doing? Zucks is doing what Apple should have been doing. Zucks is doing what Apple should have been doing. Apple should have been getting billions of users onto artificial intelligence. And Zucks right here is saying, nah, it's going to be us. We're going to be the ones that introduce the world to artificial intelligence, which to me is hilarious because Apple's kind of dropping the ball on this. We'll see what they say on today's earnings. But Zucks is like, yeah, no, we're not going to drop the ball on this. We are going to continue to make sure that we innovate for the long term, and we get everyone in the world that is using our products also using AI. Now, he also said later in the call that he plans to spend hundreds of billions of dollars in AI infrastructure over the long term. This is another reason that NVIDIA went up last night, because as soon as Zuck said, hey, we're going to keep spending money because we think more compute is important, then the market got excited about what that means for NVIDIA. The exact quote on DeepSeek, this is what Zuckerberg said. He said, some of the recent news, the new competitor DeepSeek from China just puts into perspective that there's going to be an open source standard globally. And for our own national advantage, it's important that it's an American standard. He said, we take that seriously and we want to build the AI system that people around the world are using. If anything, some of the recent DeepSeek news has only strengthened our conviction that we are focusing on the right things. So, I mean, this kind of put a wrench in the whole DeepSeek is going to take away NVIDIA demand thesis, because essentially the argument was, no, DeepSeek is making open source the standard. That means Meta gets the bid over some of these proprietary models because they have the best open source model and the largest one. And then B, you heard Zucks right there say, we have to spend more because we need to be competitive with China. We need to continue to be at the forefront of technology. This is not going to decrease demand. This is only going to increase demand. So at the end of the day, I don't know why, basically, if you listen to him, he was like reading between the lines. Why is everyone freaking out about this? We're going to need to keep spending. There's no way we're going to have to stop spending the amount we're spending. By the way, Zuckerberg didn't have to double down the way he doubled down yesterday on this thesis. I think, this is my theory. I think him and Jensen are, really cool with each other. And he saw what happened to NVIDIA stock. And he probably, gave an argument that said, yeah, we're going to keep spending. He did not have to say hundreds of billions of dollars in Capex in AI infrastructure. He could have said tens of billions. And so the fact that he said hundreds of billions, I think he kind of gave a little bit of an alley-oop to NVIDIA and was like, look, we're not going to stop spending from these guys because we need as much infrastructure as we have to have in order to be competitive with AI. And also, Zucks and Jensen have a very good relationship. In the future, when Jensen comes out with the next version that's better than even Hopper after Blackwell, Zucks wants to be first in line, most likely, because he knows that they have the free cash flow to support the ability for them to spend this much. And when they have more and more data centers, if they can fill those data centers up with better and better GPUs, then that's going to be more beneficial for them long term. Now, the one thing that he did say that kind of took NVIDIA down and took Broadcom up is that he did mention that Broadcom, by name, I believe he mentioned, which is why Broadcom was up 5%, is going to get a little bit more of their Capex spend than before. I'm going to pull up the exact quote from the transcript, but Broadcom right here, 5.78%. I believe they mentioned one of the chips that Broadcom builds as the reason for part of getting some of those hundreds of billions of dollars, and that's why Broadcom was up 5.7%. The reason NVIDIA is down, even after Zucks was so bullish on the idea of Capex infrastructure spend, is that Microsoft came out, again, had nothing to do with DeepSeek. Microsoft came out and said, we are going to be lowering the rate of growth of our Capex for fiscal year 2025. For 2026. So it's not that the raw number of dollars Microsoft is going to spend on Capex is going to go down. It's that it's not going to grow at the levels that it grew in 2025. And that first of all, that's obvious. I mean, like, it probably is not, like, if they grew Capex from 2024 to 2025, I'm just throwing out this number. I don't know if it's accurate, but let's say they grew it at 45%. Maybe they're going to grow it at 35% next year or 25%. That's going to be more dollars, like it's going to be more than 80 billion. It's just not going to be at the rate at which they grew from 2024 to 2025, which I don't think is bearish for NVIDIA. I think the market hears the headline and they think it's bearish, but that's still a lot more money going into the NVIDIA ecosystem. It's bearish for NVIDIA if the expectations for NVIDIA grow at the same rate that Microsoft's Capex expenditure was growing as well. And I don't think that's necessarily happening if you look at NVIDIA's forward guidance, their forward earnings expectations from a PE perspective. So I bought more NVIDIA last night, dude. At this point, I have 350 shares. I think I'm probably going to get to 500 shares. My conviction is growing deeper and deeper. Next week, I want to do a little bit of a kind of 10-minute or 20-minute pitch at the end of the market open on NVIDIA. Maybe we'll do it like next week on like a Thursday or Friday. And because I've been collecting a lot of details in my Google Doc and just doing my own personal due diligence. And I want to kind of lay out my bull case. It'll be good for me to lay out that thesis and, just to have it sort of set in stone for myself. But it'll be good for other people if they're curious about what is the NVIDIA thesis. I think the dip is stupid. I think the dip is very, very stupid when you hear what Meta, Microsoft, Tesla are saying about their overall Capex. Maybe it's not going to be as big as it was before, but it's definitely not slowing down. And if we're going to be producing hundreds and millions of robots, and we're going to be producing even bigger data centers, as Zucks was talking about, we're going to be doing Operation Stargate. We are going to be having more and more different verticals that the market is going to be expanding into, like FSD and robotics. There's going to be a demand for NVIDIA. I don't think that's stopping anytime soon. We are not starting NVIDIA Daily or NVIDIA Weekly. That is not happening. We have enough of all that happening. But I think it's still very exciting. We got Tanner in the chat right here. A lot of the NVIDIA scares will be cleared up by NVIDIA earnings. Yeah, dude, I did not think I would have a chance to get into NVIDIA at these prices. But if the market's giving me that opportunity, buying the dip is not easy. It was funny because the day NVIDIA fell to 116, and I think I bought it at 120, I was like scared to even swipe up on Robinhood and buy it. And now I'm just like, all right, fuck it, we're buying it. Like that's part of the thing about buying the dip is once you normalize buying the dip, you're like, all right, I'm in, and now it's not that scary. Now, if you're off by a couple dollars, you just don't care. You're like, all right, I have my thesis, I'm in. But again, I would say if Robinhood fell from 50 to 30, I would be buying that dip like crazy because I just know the company so well. So some of the NVIDIA people that I'm listening to, they're like some of the OG NVIDIA investors, they're laughing about this, dude. They're laughing. They're like, this is the dumbest thing ever. And we are like, there were some people I was talking to like, dude, I have enough NVIDIA. I don't need more NVIDIA. But even I'm buying more NVIDIA because this is just stupid. I have enough Robinhood. I probably don't need more. But if Robinhood fell 20, 30% in a day, I would be buying more Robinhood because I just understand the long-term thesis so well. And that conviction is so hard to break that it's easy for me to buy the dip. But I don't know that about NVIDIA. I don't have that same conviction about NVIDIA. So I try to put myself in the people that do have that same conviction and try to understand how they're conceptualizing it. And essentially their thesis is that this is where AI starts and begins. You need to have compute. You need to have that infrastructure. Pat Gelsinger, former CEO of Intel, came out yesterday and said, hey, I'm buying the dip on NVIDIA. Gary Tan, former the president of Y Combinator, biggest startup accelerator in Silicon Valley, he said he's buying the dip. Perplexity CEO last night said he's buying the dip. I mean, you got a lot of smart people that are intertwined in the world of AI, and they think this is laughable. So take that, take with that what you will, but it does seem like there is more and more momentum, and hopefully after earnings, a lot of the street clears up their concerns about NVIDIA. When does Carp speak today? I forgot Carp speaks today. That is right, 11 a.m. I would have put that in the title. I forgot. Carp is speaking at 11 a.m. today. So there you go. We got 4 minutes until the market open, and then at 12 or at 11 a.m., it'll probably be like 11:10, 11:15, but we will have Carp live, and we'll get to see what he has to say going into earnings later today. Okay, let's get a little bit of an update on what's going on right here and what it means for AI and earnings long term. And then we will keep going from there. We got the market open in about 4 minutes.
A lot of big tech results. Microsoft earnings and revenues topped estimates, but Azure cloud growth slowed from previous quarter rates. Meta beat the street on top and bottom lines. Meantime, Tesla fell short on both metrics as automotive revenue declined 8% from a year earlier. This afternoon, we're going to hear from Apple. Joining us now, Doug Clinton, founder and CEO of Intelligent Alpha. Doug, we're hearing about CEOs' Capex plans, what they think about the AI opportunity, and then we have to figure out the market's expectation, whether they're getting credit for it. Has anything changed with the recent reports?
I would say not much, Mike. I mean, the focus for this earnings period has absolutely been DeepSeek after what happened on Monday, kind of the rout and the rejiggering of expectations in terms of what investors think about this CapEx build. Did we learn anything new? No, but I think we did get more confirmation from Microsoft, from Meta, that they are going to continue to spend on CapEx to build into this AI boom. And I would say the even more important thing we learned yesterday, Mike, was Dario Amodei from Anthropic. He came out with probably the most detailed analysis of DeepSeek and gave a pretty hearty, I think, endorsement of continuing this heavy CapEx spend. And I think that's the most important thing for the AI trade right now.
Microsoft, in the year after ChatGPT was unveiled, November of 2022, was up 50%. It was the clearest, earliest net winner, at least in the market's perception. Since that first year, it's been a laggard, and now we see the stock trading down today. Is Microsoft getting kind of sidelined or displaced as a play with leverage to the AI trend?
I don't think it is. And so to be clear, Microsoft is a stock we own in our AI selected fund, Livermore. So our AI models have selected Microsoft as an AI winner. The reason I don't think they're getting sidelined is because they did have $13 billion in run rate AI revenue, which was, I think, a little better than investors expected. They're getting hit a little bit today because the Azure growth just hasn't been there. Some of that is due to supply constraints. But I think the big story is they've talked about this back half acceleration that now they've sort of backed off on. And so we'll see what they kind of say next quarter. That could be a little bit more of a make or break in terms of what it looks like going forward for Microsoft.
And then Tesla, I mean, pretty weak, performance in terms of the auto business. Even the earnings that they did report were not really core in some respects. It was about the Bitcoin holdings. Obviously, the market kind of doesn't care. It's a bit of a meme stock. It's $1.2 trillion market cap based on a lot of other stuff. How would you even approach it?
Look, Tesla's not one that we own at Intelligent Alpha. We think it's a great company. Elon talked a lot about them sort of being a real world AI leader, which I think is probably fundamentally true. But you do have to believe in a lot of the stuff that's coming forward, whether that's unsupervised FSD, which Elon spent a lot of time talking about, Optimus, right, Robotaxi. You really need to believe that all those things sort of work for Tesla.
And he's right. If you believe all those things work for Tesla, you buy. If you don't, you stay away from the stock. But more people than not do believe that is going to work, and they are buying into that vision. Carp will be live at 11 a.m., folks. I'll be live, so about in an hour and a half, we will get Carp on CNBC. 2 days going into earnings, we will hear from Alex Karp, CEO Palantir himself. 9:30 a.m. Thursday, January 30th. The stock market is now open. Wake your ass up. Let's get into it. All eyes on Robinhood to start the day. Robinhood, incredible performance yesterday. We've got some more updates on Robinhood that we'll just talk about in a little bit. 52.18 in the pre-markets, now going red at 51. So it gets rejected at 52 as soon as it hits it in the pre-market. Opens up a little red. We'll see if we can get back to 52. But I'll tell you one thing, Hood is normalizing the 50s, and they're normalizing the 50s very, very nicely. We're seeing that in the call options as well. The $55 call for April and for August are getting massive amounts of volume in terms of option premiums. So a lot of traders are expecting Robinhood to be above $50 this year. Palantir opens up at $80, up 1/3%, $80.10. Not bad. Carp again will be on CNBC at 11 a.m. We'll see what he has to say 2 days going into earnings, but Palantir right here opening at $80. Rocket Lab, 29.17. That's up about 1%. S&P 500 is up 1/3%. Bitcoin, 104,000, just below 105, 104.9, but Bitcoin doing nice on the day. Amazon is down 1/3%. Where is NVIDIA? NVIDIA is down also 1/3%. Let's check Tesla. Is Tesla green? Tesla is blazing green. Although their earnings definitely weren't amazing from a numbers perspective. Elon said he's a boy who cries wolf, but there is a damn wolf, and that wolf is Tesla. 410.9, up 5.6%. The market is loving what Elon said. The market is hating that Microsoft did $25 billion of profits. They're loving that Tesla did $2.5 billion, but they're hating that Microsoft did $25 billion of profits. Microsoft down 5.3%. I mean, it just goes to show you in this state of the stock market in 2025, narrative matters a lot more than just your numbers. It's not that your numbers don't matter, but your narrative is very important. And I don't think people can see Microsoft being a $10 trillion company, but they can see Tesla getting there. And that's why they are buying Tesla over Microsoft today. Meta up 2.5%, has not broken 700 yet during the opening hours, but it was 700 last night. It was 715 in the after hours session yesterday after the earnings. Robinhood gaps up right above 52. There you go. 52.14 up 1.92% of the day. Micron is up 2%. ASML is up 3.5%. Rock Lab again up 1%. Grab is down about 1% on the day. S&P 500 604. Oklo is up 5%. Shopify 117. SMCI up 2.5%. Snapchat was up in the pre-markets, down right now. It was up about 4% yesterday. That is down 0.5% on the day. SoundHound is up 2.3%. ASTS is up 5.3%. Nice rebound from the 20% decline they had over the past basically past 7 days. SoFi right here, 1650. SoFi making its way back to the 17s. They did get upgraded by Mizuho and Needham to $20. So we finally have some price targets that are in the 20s for SoFi, which is nice to see. PayPal right here is up 1.4%. TMDX is up 1.4%. Nano Nuclear Energy, that's up 6.5%. So nuclear getting a bid. And then NVIDIA going down a little bit on the day, down 1%, 122.5. But NVIDIA is red. Palantir is green, $80. AMD, 120. That is green. Let's check on all the other semiconductor names on the day. They are all green except NVIDIA, Intel, and On Semiconductor. TSM is green, Qualcomm's green, Broadcom, wow, 7%. Oh my. I guess Zuckerberg mentioning Broadcom by name yesterday on the earnings call got the market excited. If you own Broadcom, congratulations. That's a nice recovery. It fell, I think, 18% on Monday, with NVIDIA. Recovered a little bit yesterday and now recovering a decent amount today, up 7% right here. NVIDIA still down on the day. SMCI up 1.7%. Lam Research also had a great earnings. They're up 7%. I think they beat on the top and the bottom line, so they also had a decent earnings. The company we're not talking about, but that we should be talking about, IBM, is up 9%. They outperformed every tech company yesterday, even though they weren't Microsoft, Meta, or Tesla. But IBM right here up 8.9% of the day. They increased their free cash flow, if I remember correctly, by 1.5 billion. They're guiding for 13.5 versus 12 billion in free cash flow. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. So when you increase your free cash flow like that, you're going to do well. We saw that with Twilio. Twilio increased their free cash flow estimates to 3 billion. Twilio was up 20% on Monday. The street definitely likes it when you expand those free cash flow margins and those estimates. Tesla right here at 405. That's up 4%, giving up a little bit of the 410 range that it was at. SoFi 1643, Meta 689, not cracking above 700 yet. But they are just below that level. MasterCard, great earnings today. Beat on the top and the bottom. They're up 3%. AMD's up 2%. Palantir nicely above 80. And then Robinhood as well, holding above 52. Not bad at all. Crypto, we've got green across the board. Bitfarms is up. MicroStrategy is up 351. By the way, MicroStrategy got upgraded by Mizuho to $515. So you got a new firm that initiated coverage on MicroStrategy. The thesis in a nutshell was that they think Bitcoin is becoming more institutionalized. And even if they disagree with the premium to NAV on MicroStrategy, they agree with the adoption of Bitcoin as an asset class. And that's why they think MSTR will be levered nicely against it. CleanSpark right here is up 5%. Coinbase is up 3%. Bitcoin back above 105,000. Bitcoin broke out last night a little bit. It was at almost like 106. So we got some volume last night, right now at 105. The Bitcoin ETFs took in about $300 million over the past couple of days as well. So nice to see some inflows going there on Bitcoin. HIMS is green, 3%. You got HIMS, that's green. HIMS is green. Riot as well, I believe, is green on the day. Riot is up 6%. Not bad. Let's go to the spec names and see how the spec names are doing. We are all green on spec. Wow. Microsoft, Meta, and Tesla did good enough to get us some green on the spec portfolio. SoundHound's up. Archer is up. Big Bear is up. Kohler is up. AMC is up. GameStop's up. Rigetti, D-Wave, IONQ, and Qubit. All of these technology companies in the quantum space are green by about 5% on the day. Let's check Fartcoin to see how that one's doing. Wow, dude, Fartcoin's up 25%. It's just like, thank Tesla, Meta, and Microsoft. Pumped up the market. Got some of these risk-on assets going up. You know what's hilarious about this? Martin Shkreli is short Fartcoin, and he's like obnoxiously short Fartcoin. Like on Twitter, every other tweet is him making fun of people that are long Fartcoin. And like, I get it, when you're as rich as he is, you develop an ego and you think you can call something a scam. And, most people would say Fartcoin is a scam, but this thing keeps going up. And every time he doubles down on the short position, it'll go down like 10% of the day. It'll just gap back up. And it would be really funny if Fartcoin ends up, becoming something where he has to cover his short long term. But that one is up 25% right here on the day. Max 7 are all green except Amazon, which is probably down because Microsoft's cloud growth. Oh, here's another thing. Microsoft's cloud growth for Q1 was down. It was not as good as what the street expected. So that's another reason Microsoft's getting hit right now. They had a good earnings, but their guidance, I don't want to say it sucked, but it definitely wasn't like up there in terms of how the street could interpret justifying the valuation. And the problem is when you have no narrative like a FSC or robotics and you have crappy guidance, the street thinks, why would we put our money here, right? Like, what is the value? What is the ROI we're getting in terms of this story? So that's why Microsoft's down 5%. Now people are interpreting that as Amazon's going to have bad AWS guidance, which I guess we'll find out next week and see if that happens. But Amazon right here down about 0.64% here as well. GDP came in at 2.3% versus 2.6% expected. If you're just joining, GDP came in about 0.3% lower than expected. Didn't really affect the broader markets, but that was the GDP reading that we had today. Initial jobless claims came in 17,000 better than expected. Apple right here is green, 239. They report earnings today after the bell. Let's do a poll right here in the chat on Apple. By the way, 58% of you believed in Elon's statements. 42% of you voted no, you don't believe in Elon's statements. Apple, pump or dump? That is the question. I want to say dump, but then again, it's already dumped from 260 to 240. I don't know if the market lets them dump that much lower. My actual answer would be flat. Apple doesn't move that much on earnings, so I don't think they're going to move like crazy. But is the earnings going to be good based on the reports we're seeing out of China in regards to their iPhone sales? No. They did not sell as many iPhones as the street expected. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we get a little bit of a retracement, even though it's already had a big one for starting off the year. Tesla is just green by 2%. It could go below 400. 22 cents separate Tesla from seeing the 390s again, but Tesla holding on, up 2.8%. Is Meta at 700? Meta is at 700. Wow, there you go. Meta, $700 on the day. First time ever in the history of Meta being a public company. $700 freaking dollars, 703.97. This stock was at $80 in 2022. I mean, talk about a recovery, dude. Whether you like Zucks or not, talk about a recovery. Just incredible on Meta. Where is Hoodie? Hoodie is at 5206. Hoodie holding on to 52 right now. Meta, yeah, let's ring the bell for Meta. 703 on Meta. And it's not stopping. It's not stopping here. 704. Even if you bought it, dude, this thing was $600 on the day that NVIDIA fell 20% in the pre-markets. So even if you bought it at like 615, 620, 630, you're up very nicely on Meta right here. Absolutely incredible by Meta. Tesla just below 400. Tesla below 400. 398 now on Tesla. Robinhood not stopping either. Let me check resistance on 53 on Hood, because I don't know. It looks like Hood wants to get there. It is doing a nice job staying above 52. 53 resistance is 18,000 shares, which is not crazy. 18,000 shares is not crazy for Hood to get above 53. Tesla 399. Meta, wow, 707. Not stopping. Not freaking stopping. The street loved their earnings, and they should. I mean, Zucks came in and he did what he had to do, and he answered questions in a way that showed a real vision. They're getting a real ROI from their spend. It's not like they're just spending to spend. And so the street likes it. Ironically, NVIDIA going the opposite direction, down 2%. NVIDIA going down 2%. Rocket Lab's up 5%. Rocket Lab is up 5%. Dude, I bought Rocket Lab at $28.90. I did not think it would normalize in the 30s. And ever since it is normalized, I think it came below 28 a little bit yesterday, like for like a couple of hours. And it's just, it is, I don't know. Someone keeps buying this thing in the high 20s, low 30s. And it is finding its room and rhythm there. And it's been 2 weeks. It's not like it's, only been a couple of days. It's been 2 weeks of staying at these levels. Last time we saw 23 was early January. So the Rocket Lab did get a couple price target upgrades, which has been relatively bullish for them. But I think a lot of retail is coming into Rocket Lab and they're buying into the vision, which is what you need on a stock like this, especially after it's up 500%. You need new buyers, people who would buy like me after a 500% run and are going to hold it. And it looks like people are doing that. Reddit is at 208. This is incredible. Up 2.7% right here. So I said this on the market close a couple days ago, but I bought Reddit. And I forgot I bought Reddit, but I bought Reddit. I bought 100 shares at 165 on Reddit like 3 weeks ago. And I bought it because I didn't care much of it. It wasn't like I was going long on Reddit. I sold a covered call at 175 expiring on February 21st. So I bought it. I sold a call against it. And it was just part of my trading portfolio. I was like, look, I don't care about this, right? Like it is what it is, right? It's at 164. I looked at some technicals. I was like, I don't think it's really going to go below 164. Maybe it goes to 140. I'll DCA. And there wasn't a long thesis. There was just like, hey, the covered call premiums are ridiculous. We talked about this in December. In December, when I was looking at the covered call premiums, people were willing to pay 10% for a 30% out of the money covered call. And you barely get like 2 or 3% on a decent stock. I was like, why are people paying so much on the premiums for Reddit covered calls? So I bought 100 shares and I was like, screw it. I'll sell a covered call. And if it gets called away, it gets called away. That covered call is so deep in the money. I would have to roll this thing like 2 years out just to break even to maybe keep those shares. So I don't know what I'm going to do with my Reddit. I'm up like $5,000 on it. I thought I would barely be up like $1,000, and I did not think Reddit would gap up to 200. But here we are, all-time highs on Reddit, 206.95. Robinhood right here, 52.20. Rocket Lab, $30.24. Meta now at 702, getting rejected at that 710 level, and then Tesla as well at 398 here on the day. Where's Google? I did buy 50 shares of Google the other day. I want to get to 100 shares before earnings. Google is at 201, not bad, up 2.3% on the day for the Googs. Not bad at all. Just to show you guys the Reddit fiasco I'm in, I'm down almost 3,000 on this covered call. Like, I did not think selling a 175 strike on Reddit, which is already up 500%, would be in jeopardy. And maybe after earnings, they tank. Who knows? But even if they tank after earnings, it might just tank to 175 instead of, tanking all the way to the 140. So I don't know what the hell Reddit's trading off of. It's had a 32 times price to sales. I don't know if people on Wall Street Bets are hyping it up. I have no idea. But this stock is just an incredible stock, and it's outperforming pretty much everything this year right now. Comcast is down 9%. Why is Comcast down 9%? That's weird. Do they have earnings today? There might be some news on them. That's still a big company, Comcast, even if it's legacy media. Yeah, $130 billion company, dude. Down 9%. That's weird. That's down 9%. Tempest is 55. That's up another 8%. Goodness gracious, up another 8%. Mooncake says that is the risk of covered calls. Yes, that is the risk of covered calls. For those that went into the options series we talked about last Saturday, the risk is sometimes you want to have a one-night stand with a stock, and then you catch feelings, and then you realize you don't want to let her leave, right? And so now Reddit at 200, I'm like, wait a second. If the market's this bullish on Reddit, why? If I got a 165 average, I don't think that 165 average is going to go away anytime soon. So I want her back. And so now I'm pleading with her to stay. And so we'll figure out what happens here. But sometimes you got to be unemotional. Sometimes the emotions definitely do get in the way. Robinhood, wow, 52.47. That's up 3%. Meta at 708, up 5%. Tesla 396. And then is NVIDIA tanking? NVIDIA is tanking. NVIDIA is tanking here right now. Well, I mean, it's down 2%. It's not crazy tanking, but it is going opposite from the other stocks right here. What else do we have? Tesla 395. Okay, Tesla giving back a lot of its gains. To be honest, guys, I mean, look, as much as I love Tesla, I don't think it deserves to be at $420 or $430. Like, dude, those earnings, those numbers were not good. They were not good numbers. The EPS and revenue numbers were horrible. Their automotive gross margins also, I think, were the lowest they've ever been, or very close to the lowest they've ever been at 16%. Like, it just wasn't a good earnings. And so if you ask me, is Tesla going to 450 off potential? Eventually, yes. But today, I don't know if it deserves to get that today. I think it might take some time. I think the street just needs to sit with these results over the next few weeks, and then it might take it there. But then again, it might not matter. If people really want to buy it on potential, then they'll buy it on potential. And I'm saying this as a guy who bought it at like 405 last week. So it is what it is. But even after seeing those numbers, I was like, all right, these numbers, I know we're betting on potential, but the potential needs to materialize a little bit, because these numbers were not the best numbers on Tessie. But in Elon, we trust, correct. In Elon, we trust. Yes, I listened to the call yesterday. The call was super bullish. I'm not denying the call wasn't bullish. It's just, it's a lot of, okay, you got to show me this stuff eventually, because it's just not here yet. Palantir right here, $80.77, up 1.26% of the day. Palantir potentially going for 81. Alibaba right here is up 2%. Apple just went red. United is down 0.5%. The Qs are up 0.68%. Let me check resistance on Palantir for 81. We do have CARP going on today, and if CARP says some beautiful bullish statements about the ontology versus the LLM, which I think he is going to reiterate what he's been saying for the past 3 years now, then that could also help Palantir. 31,000 shares to get to 81. We are 5 cents away. 32,000 shares to get to 81. Well, there we go. 81 back on Palantir. Let's ring the bell as Palantir enters back into the 81s. Wow. Outside of the big three that reported, everything else is running. I mean, Meta, Microsoft, and Tesla are kind of flattish today. Meta is it still above 700? Meta's not flat. Meta's up 5%. It's still holding 700. Microsoft and Tesla more flat. But Palantir getting a bid from some of these earnings. Reddit up 2.82%. And then Hoodie, wow, 52.67. It hit 52.77 at one point. Oh my. Hood is not slowing down, up 3%. We'll talk more about Hood as we get into the show. There are some new updates to discuss. But the biggest thing is that I think they are starting to step up their lobbying efforts in DC. And it looks like Vlad wants to be a really big player in the DC financial regulation space going into the next decade. And he has the administration that hopefully can allow him to get to this momentum as well. Tesla right here, $399, up 2.5%. Twilio's at $146, IBM at $255, SoFi at $1650, Broadcom at $219, MasterCard at $570, and AMD right here at $119. That's up 2% on the day. NVIDIA still down 0.5% here right now. Amit, what do you think will happen with Meta stock price if TikTok is sold to a U.S. firm? I think nothing's going to happen. I think TikTok's not a threat to Meta. It would be amazing if TikTok was banned for Meta, but it's not like Meta's going to stop executing. I mean, you saw what they said yesterday, 3.3 billion daily active users. That's not going away because of TikTok. So I don't think TikTok's going to put a wrench in the Meta thesis, but it could be a tailwind for them if it does get banned, but at this point, it's probably not going to get banned. Palantir 81.31. Not slowing down on Palantir, up 2%. Again, Karp speaks in an hour, so we'll see what Karp has to say. But pretty damn incredible right here for Palantir being at 81.30 here right now. Amit, did you read the Google news? Waymo is expanding to 10 new states. I did see that yesterday, which is probably another reason that Elon said that FSD is going to expand across the entire country. Let me see if I can pull up the exact states they're expanding to. But yes, I did see that last night. Waymo is beginning to expand. And so I think Elon feels a sense of urgency now, because if Waymo is expanding as much as they are, Tesla's at least got to go live in Texas, in Texas, hopefully soon. Waymo is expanding its autonomous vehicle testing to 10 new U.S. cities this year, beginning with Las Vegas and San Diego. The new vehicles will be manually driven, focusing on Waymo's self-driving system adapts to new environments with different weather conditions, traffic patterns, and infrastructure. This is the other bullish thing about robotaxi, and Elon said this yesterday on the call. They don't need to worry about all the different locations. They just need to make their AI so good that it adapts to every location. And so, that's another reason why people are buying Tesla, because it doesn't have to be geo-fenced in some certain location. It needs to be so good that whatever it goes live, whether it's Texas, California, New York, it's going to work because their AI is just simply better than everyone else's when it comes to FSD. Robinhood is at 52.84. Again, there's 30,000 shares between Robinhood getting to 53 and not. It looks like it wants to get there. It hit 52.91, so I think we are going to get there today. I think the market momentum is strong. There's not a massive wall at 53. If the volume comes in, we should be able to get there. Elon is so powerful, he can ignore edge cases. Yes, exactly. Again, dude, like I was listening to that Tesla call yesterday, and he was speaking music to my ears because I'm using FSD every day and I get it. And this is why I've been buying Tesla in the 390s and the 400s, even though, yes, it is obviously expensive, but I just think FSD is going to be the future. It's just the automotive earnings were so god awful that the only thing you can believe in today is the potential of the future, because the automotive earnings, I mean, Tesla's at 194 PE today, and they're not growing. They're growing less than they're growing negative 8% year over year. And guidance for 2025 is not like they're going to grow 30 or 40%. It's going to be grow maybe 3 to 4%. So the only thing you can believe in if you're buying Tesla at these levels, which is what I've been doing over the past couple of weeks, is the FSD and robotics story. And the question is just going to be when that goes live. But I think, Elon sounded very confident, and I know he tends to sound confident, but this was a different type of Elon that I've heard in the past. He sounds as ambitious as he could ever sound. And the idea of the boy who cried wolf, but the wolf being real, and that wolf being FSD, I think it shows that Elon really wants to make this year one of the biggest foundational years for FSD going into the latter half of the decade. But Tesla is giving back all the gains that they got today, 392 here right now. Rocket Lab still up 5.2%. Reddit's up 2.5%. Robinhood 52.50. Meta at 707. Palantir 81.30. Nvidia gapping up 123.17. Let's see if Nvidia can go green. It's about 0.2% away. Maybe it can get there. Bitcoin, are we almost at 106? We are almost at 106 on Bitcoin. 105.9. 105.9 on Bitcoin. Would car insurance go down in the future if you use FSD? That's a good question. I have no idea. I honestly don't know how the insurance debate plays out when it comes to FSD. And well, the thing is, it's not unsupervised. It's still supervised. So it's still my fault if I get into a crash. But when it gets unsupervised, then we'll see how the insurance partners are gonna try to underwrite that type of an offering. Bitcoin 106 on Bitcoin. 106 Bitcoin back to 106. That's helping Hoodie 52.66. Meta 704. Palantir 81.36. Palantir not giving up 81. Maybe going for a run at 82. Googs at 203. Nice to see Googs getting some love, up 3%. SMCI is up 1.7. Shopify holding on to its 10% gains this week. Celsius as well, breaking back above 25. Starbucks was up 10% yesterday, up another 1% today. So it looks like the street is having some confidence in Brian Nichols. Salesforce is down a little bit. Vistra's up 5%. This is Nancy's stock. VRT is up 5%. Another data center stock. Oracle is up 3.4%. Another software data center stock. And then Oklo, an energy play, is up 9%. Looks like people are buying the dip on some of these nuclear names here today. XYZ, aka Square, they are also up 3.2%, breaking out a little bit as Bitcoin gets above 106. Robinhood at 52.68 right here. Palantir 81.20 currently right now. Is Tesla red? Tesla is literally 50 cents away from going red. Okay, so that whole 5% pump off whatever Elon said is kind of going away. But it was there for like 10 minutes today. Look, it is what it is. It is what it is. Ultimately, the street's going to have to figure out how they conceptualize the ability for Optimus and FSD to scale long-term. Now, we did get some updates from the street on Tesla. Let me read these real quick. So UBS raised their price target from 226 to 259. So obviously well below the current price, but they said, we continue to be impressed with Tesla's initiatives and the progress they're making on FSD and Optimus. Our challenge remains the actual numbers and more easily identifiable forecasts related to auto and energy. That is not to say that there shouldn't be any value assigned to these future endeavors. However, by our estimates, auto and energy is worth about 53 a share. This means even at last close, all these other ventures are already being valued at nearly 1.2 trillion already. So UBS thinking that FSD and robotics are potentially priced in, and that is why their price target is well below the street estimates. Again, a lot of these analysts, they tend to miss out on exponential growth. And if there was any company in the stock market that could deliver exponential growth out of every single of the 4,000 public stocks, I think it would be Tesla on a decade-long vision. But you're not going to get analysts on a 1 to 2 year time horizon deliver that in their price targets here today. So we got that update from UBS, which is an upgrade, but still not a super bullish outlook on these stocks. SoFi right here, 1650. That's up 3%. Not bad. Robinhood, are we at 52.71? Again, I think it wants to go to 53. We'll see if that can happen later today. The Qs are green, 525 on the Qs. That's up 1%. Starbucks is up 1%. And CrowdStrike breaking above 400 again after touching 411 a couple of days ago. Amazon just went green. There you go. Max 7. Max 7 is green. So here's the thing. One of the themes I outlined going into 2025 was going to be, do you believe in large cap dominance over small caps, or do you believe in the rotation trade? And so far, the rotation trade hasn't really worked out. I mean, IWM, just to get a little bit of clarity on this, IWM year to date is 4%, up 4%. Meta year to date is up 17%. Google year to date is up 6%. Amazon year to date is up 8%. NVIDIA, let's not do NVIDIA because NVIDIA is probably not going to be too pretty. Tesla year to date is still up 4%. That's beating IWM. And then what's the other one? Apple. Apple is doing bad as well. So Apple and NVIDIA have been the laggards of the Max 7 of the large caps compared to IWM. But every other IWM has beaten, every other large cap has beaten small caps, except maybe Microsoft. Microsoft year to date, Microsoft is down year to date as well. Okay, so 3 of the Max 7s have not beaten the small caps. 4 of them, Amazon, Microsoft, or Amazon, Google, Meta, and Amazon have beaten the IWMs. So far, the rotation trade is not necessarily going in the favor of IWM if you're in the right Max 7s. If you're in NVIDIA or Apple, the Max 7 rotation has happened, and it's beaten those 2 stocks via small caps. We're not looking at what small caps, we're just looking at IWM as an aggregate, because that's what most of the sell side analysts are telling their clients. They're like, hey, trim some of your Amazon, get into small caps. They're undervalued compared to the S&P. There's more room for rotation, more room for breadth in this market to increase, which they're like technically correct about. It's just, again, who wants to sell Amazon and go into IWM? And I don't know if that's going to be as easily possible if Amazon keeps delivering pretty good earnings. Meta right here at 709. I mean, if you sold Meta this year to get into small caps, GG. I mean, I would be pretty angry at any financial advisor that told me to do that, because it's just so obvious why you would not do that. And I know it's obvious as the stock is up 17%. Maybe if the stock was down 17%, it would be different. But still, it's like they did $8 a share. The company's worth more than 1.78 trillion. Like, that's not easy to do. And to doubt their ability to do that with no sort of a glaring bear thesis in the beginning of the year, outside of maybe regulation, which with the Trump administration, Zucks has cleared that up really nicely, putting Dana White on the board, etc. Selling Meta for IWM makes no sense, or at least it made no sense early this year. Tom Lee is bullish on small caps. Yeah, and look, I love Tom Lee, and I think he has a good argument. But so far, I mean, I've never really agreed with him on small caps. Like I like the trade. I wouldn't sell my large caps for small caps. I would sell other stuff maybe to get into the trade, but not the best companies in the world that have a lot of money to do buybacks. Also, people aren't talking about NVIDIA's free cash flow and their ability to do buybacks. I would imagine NVIDIA, they did $30 billion of buybacks in the trailing 12 months. NVIDIA, looking at the stock price right now, is probably thinking, hey, we should allocate more to buying back our stock. That might be something that's holding it at this 120 range, but also something that's allowing NVIDIA to take off some cheap shares off the market and retire those shares and potentially increase EPS dramatically going into Q1 if they accelerate the pace of their buybacks. So hopefully we see if that can end up playing out. Where's Tesla? Are we red on Tesla? We are red on Tesla. 388 on the day. Tesla officially goes red. Bitcoin just below 106. Oklo's up 6%. Robin at 52.67. And Meta right here at 706 on the day. Tesla and Uber are switching. Uber was red during the day. Uber is now almost green. That is hilarious, bro. Every time Tesla and Uber are going to be paired against each other probably for the next 5 years, dude. It's pretty incredible. Tesla going definitively red, 387. Uber just breaking out to be green, 66.72. I think at this point, the algos kind of trade them back and forth. There's probably a spread trade that the algorithms have identified. And if one goes up, the other one goes down. If the other one goes down, the other one goes up. And that's kind of how the street's probably thinking of it. What about Grab? So Grab's not really a small cap. Grab's a mid cap, I think. Grab right here, down 1% after being down up 4% yesterday. $19 billion market cap. I wouldn't say that's a small cap. But again, Grab, there's a thesis for me on Grab. IWM, there's just an aggregate thesis about small caps as a sector, which to me is more riskier than being in an individual stock that you know. Like, I think it's more risky being in an ETF that you think is going to do well in a sector versus an individual stock potentially in that ETF that you've studied for like 10,000 hours, you know? Because it just comes down to having better conviction. So I think Grab will do well, but ultimately they've got to show good Q4 earnings growth. The other thing about Grab is that they're in emerging markets, so it gives you a little bit of exposure outside of the United States if the United States were to get a bit too heated. And we know, the froth in the United States is getting up there in terms of the percentage of large caps as a result of the S&P. But even with that froth, I wouldn't sell my Google to buy small caps. It's just hard to conceptualize it. Pounds here, 80.60. Were we at 81 already on pound? Yeah, we were. Okay, so that actually came down from 81. We went from 81.36 to 80.60. Robinhood still trying to make its way to 53. Where is Nubank here on the day? Nubank up 3.4%. Look at that. Congrats if you're in Nubank. $13. $13 on Nubank. This thing was at 10.50 about 3 weeks ago. So if you load it up on some Nubank, it's doing not too bad. Let's check the dollar. Is the dollar going down today? The dollar is going down, 107.8. That is bullish for international stocks. Let's take a look at the 10-year. The 10-year is going down as well. It's interesting to see the 10-year down because Trump's Treasury Secretary has been talking a lot more about tariffs. In fact, they said in the next week, they're like serious about putting a 25% tariff on Canada. Now, again, maybe the market's not believing them, but Howard Lutnick is saying that we think we're going to seriously do this. But the 10-year is not going up. 10-year is not budging on that headline. So it's almost like the market's not believing they're going to do it. And maybe when they do it, the 10-year acts in a way that is more prone to the inflation fears. But as of now, it's not happening. Okay, where's Hood? Where's Hood? Are we almost there? Are we almost at 53? 52.90. 52.90. Damn, it gets rejected every time. It got to 52.95, then got rejected. Then it got rejected. Let's see, bro. Let's see if we can get to 53. This stock has just been on a tear this year. It's been great to sell puts against as well. I sold a bunch of puts at $47 when it was at literally 47 a couple days ago. So those puts are doing well today. 52.65 right here on Hood, up 2.9%. We'll see if we can get to that 53 level later today. It's trying to get there. Rocket Lab as well, giving back some of the gains, 29.84. Twilio's down a little bit. IBM up 12.5%. Freaking IBM. Incredible. Ahmed, how do you see how many shares you need to get to the next price level? So I use Robinhood's order book flow volumes. If you type in on Google NASDAQ level 2 order book flow volumes, it'll show you the flows. You might have to pay for some service. I pay $5 a month for Robinhood and I get access to it, but they should be available online. Also, Webull I think gives them out as well. I just don't look at it on Webull because I just use it at Robinhood, but I think Webull gives it out for free. So if you download Webull, you should be able to see it for free as well, which shouldn't be too bad. Where's the NASDAQ? Are we red on the NASDAQ? Are we green or red? We are still green on the NASDAQ. Tesla is definitely going red. NVIDIA 121, Amazon 235, Hood 5255, Palantir 79.92, Robinhood is 52.50, and Palantir is below 80. Now, we do have Karp in 1 hour at 11 a.m., so we're still going to have Karp on CNBC today, so we'll see what he says. We haven't heard from him in about a month. I mean, we did hear in that keynote thing he did about his book, but in terms of a actual interview in the business media, we have not seen that yet, so that'll be nice to see him 2 days before earnings. Next decade is up. Kinder Morgan is up. Energy Transfer is up. So energy infrastructure is up on the day. Costco's up. Walmart's up. Target is up. So the retailers are also catching a little bit of a bid today. Bitcoin at 105.8 here right now. Okay, so let's talk about some of the other upgrades we got. Here's what the street is saying about Meta. Let's take a look at this. So here is all the combined price targets from the street today on Meta. Amit, what is your total NVIDIA position now? So it's 350 shares at an average of 127.10. And as you asked me that question, we're going to buy a little bit more. So let's buy another 25 shares here right now. Let's get that out of the way. I think the goal is going to be 500 shares, and we will keep DCAing. So here you go. Got another 25 on NVIDIA. So now we're at 375 shares on NVIDIA. Average cost is 126.74. 126.74. Dude, now I'm buying the dip and I don't even care. On Monday, I was so scared to buy those 50 shares at 120. And now it's like, well, we're going down with the ship, boys. We're going down with the ship. All right, Rosenblatt, 846 price target on Meta. That's a big one. Jefferies raising it to 810. Raymond James, 800. Oppenheimer, 800. Piper Sandler, 775. Truist, 770. Goldman Sachs, 765. Bard, 750. Evercore, 725. Needham has an underperform. So Needham's being the bear here. And everyone else has upgraded them well into the 800s. Rosenblatt said, beyond that, Meta paints a compelling picture of how these investments near and long-term can accelerate sales, which while also improving cost trends in 2026. Nobody's more bulled up on AI than Meta, and Meta might have more benefits to show from AI than anyone. I kind of agree with that. I mean, who is showing more of an ROI besides Tesla, even though Tesla's not showing the ROI? I mean, FSD is amazing, but it's not really showing the ROI yet, even if it is the best real-world manifestation of AI. Meta's advertising business, bread and butter, simple business, so simple. You're scrolling through Instagram, you see some ads. Dude, the other day, I forgot the example, but this is how I know Meta has a microphone and they hear everything we're saying. Like, I'm convinced it's happening. I talked about something. I'm forgetting about what I talked about. It showed up on Instagram like 3 days ago. And I was like, there's no way in hell this thing could have showed up as an ad unless they're listening to me. Like, there's just no way. There's no way. And so, like as a Meta shareholder, how are you going to beat that? How are you going to beat that as one of the best advertising systems ever? I'm sure you guys have had that experience happen before. I will never forget when I was a sophomore in college. I will never forget this. I was at the bus stop, and for some reason, I was thinking about Twix, the chocolate bar. I wanted a Twix. I don't know why. Why is it so specific? Because I'll never forget this. I wanted a Twix. Maybe I saw a vending machine when I was walking from class, and I was like, damn, I want a Twix. Like, I feel like having a Twix right now. I go on Instagram an hour later. There was a freaking Twix ad on Instagram. And I almost dropped my phone. Like, I was like, I didn't search this. I didn't type in Twix. I don't even think I said it. I was talking to myself. I'm like, my consciousness was thinking about a Twix. How do they know this? Like, how is this possible? And at that moment, my dumbass should have taken the money I was going to buy the Twix with and bought some Meta stock. Because at that moment, I think Meta was trading at probably like $80 a share, $90 a share, maybe 120. It was like 2017, where maybe it was like $70 a share, whatever it was. That would have been the time to buy some Meta. That was insanity, bro. That was insanity. I could not fathom that they were reading my mind, but I think they are. I think they're reading everyone's mind. So regardless, dude, their advertising ecosystem is amazing. Meta right here, giving back some of its gains, still above 700. and that is why they have the highest ROI, at least so far, when it comes to AI. Okay, let's see what else we've got going on in the broader markets. We talked about some of the earnings. We talked about Tesla. We talked about Microsoft. We talked about GDP growth that wasn't as strong as expected, but it was still above 2%, which is good. Is Google still up today? Google right here is at 201. That's up 2.36%. So Google breaking above 200. Let's get an update on the helicopter American Airlines crash yesterday. For those that are just joining, there was a horrific accident with a Black Hawk that collided with an American Airlines commercial passenger airplane, and it looks like 67 people have lost their lives. So let's get an update on that, and then we'll keep going from there.
At 11 a.m. East Coast time, so just about an hour from now, the president is expected to go to the briefing room and update the country on what he knows now about what happened here last night. We do have a little bit of additional information on what happened, and I can tell you that the airport here is starting to reopen in expectation of flights beginning at 11 a.m. Just as you see normal life beginning to reemerge here, passengers with their wheelie bags, TSA lines are filling up. And we did hear from the new Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, in a social media post just a short time ago, saying that this Black Hawk helicopter crew was fairly experienced that was involved in this crash last night. He said they were equipped with night vision goggles, so they did have the capacity at least to see the other aircraft. They did have the training and experience to understand what they were doing, even though this is described as a training flight. Here's what we know right now. Officials are saying so far there are no survivors from this incident. We know that there were 64 people on board the jet aircraft, the commercial plane that crashed, 3 people on board the U.S. Army helicopter that crashed. They say they've recovered 27 bodies from the airplane so far, 1 from the helicopter that was involved in this incident. There has been a litany of incidents over the past couple of years where they've had near misses here at Ronald Reagan National Airport. Some concern about that as you take a look at some of the dates associated with those near misses in the past. A number of incidents that have been reported publicly where airplanes came too close to one another, and there have been some concern that we might see some kind of incident like this because of all of the incredible amount of traffic that comes through this airport on a day-to-day basis. We also heard from the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, who was just sworn in hours before this event last night. Here's what he had to say.
We are going to wait for all the information to come in from this vantage point, but to back up what the president said, what I've seen so far, do I think this was preventable? Absolutely.
So the Secretary of Transportation there is saying he does think this incident was preventable. We may learn more from the White House in about an hour's time, guys. But just from here, it is a little bit eerie, I have to say, to see passengers starting to fill the airport again. It has been very, very quiet and still here since this incident last night, as all air traffic has been stopped. No passengers, no civilians on this campus at all overnight. Now you see, the passengers with the wheelie bags and the cups of coffee, the TSA lines starting to fill up. All those things of daily business travel that we're all so familiar with. And it's a little bit of a jarring contrast between what we see here as a crime scene and what we see behind me at the airport, which is business as usual starting to come back, guys.
Yeah, see the train behind you. Eamon, what about from the Pentagon? I mean, what do we know about this Black Hawk helicopter? Who was on board? Why it seemingly went straight for that plane and wasn't able to sideswipe or
All right, we will go back to that and get some more coverage in a bit, but obviously very, very, very sad. I mean, heart goes out to the victims on this. You can't imagine that, dude. There's some things in life where you just can't imagine. And so I guess there will be a much deeper investigation on how that played out, but very, very sad to see that happen late last night. It looks like we got Hood over 53. It looks like we have Robinhood above 53. We got to ring the bell for good old Hoodie. They did it. They did it above 53 on Hood. What can you say? Company is executing. Company is executing. Josh Brown yesterday on his podcast said that this thing's going to 75, and he thinks they are just not stopping in terms of their execution. Again, man, it's one of those stocks where it's an incredible stock to wheel. It's an incredible stock to own. It's not the best stock to sell covered calls against right now. I think it's in a little bit of a breakout phase, potentially really becoming one of those companies this year. S&P inclusion on the horizon, and then earnings growth, I think, is going to justify a lot of the momentum that we've seen, because already, with $5 billion in cash, $1 billion allocated for buybacks, they can buy the dip on their own stock if there's a dip, and they are normalizing, becoming one of the most important financial institutions in the world. So Robinhood right here, constant innovation, user experiences focus, back there right on now on 53. The call volume, again, I think that's the biggest telltale. The amount of people that have been buying calls on this thing going into August and April, and heavy premiums. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars coming into the call option premiums. It's because they believe that this thing is going to be well over 50, and so market's definitely trading it like that, and it continues to get momentum. 5301 right here for Robinhood. Riot's up 6%, Rocket Lab's up 2%, Reddit is up 1%. Pounds are trying to make its way back to 81. We will have CARP in about 45 minutes live on CNBC, so we'll get an update on what CARP is thinking going into earnings. Nubank as well up 3.7%. Google 202 still holding the 200s, and Robinhood right here potentially normalizing the $53 range on Hood. Not bad, man. Not bad. They are becoming what a lot of people thought they could become, and they're doing their thing. They're absolutely doing their thing. And the crazy thing about Robinhood, it's only a month into the year. We still have three big events later this year. A crypto event in France, and then we have two. We have the Robinhood Summit, and then we have Robinhood Gold. They're going to announce a ton of new products at all those three events. So when you talk about innovation and just like pedal to the metal, continuing to maintain momentum, Robinhood's not stopping. They're just not stopping. Fear and greed. Let's look at fear and greed. Is that at 47? It looks like that is up a little bit today. We are in neutral, so we are not at greed yet. We are still in neutral when it comes to fear and greed, but that is ticking up just a little bit here. We were at fear, I think, early on Monday. Here today. Yeah, S&P 500 as well. S&P 500 inclusion as well is going to be important. They're 3 times more expensive than IBKR, correct, but they're growing. Again, that's the difference on Hood. The reason it's been easy to buy Hood every time it gaps up, I bought it at 50 last week, is because they're growing. And I think they're going to continue to grow 30 to 40% this year. And if you have that level of growth fueled by product execution, the street pays a premium for that. And the premium's not that crazy when you consider the cash they have on hand and the fact that they're buying back their stock. So when it comes to being a growth stock, Robinhood is absolutely putting up the growth. And I think that's why the street is excited for them as well. Meta 703, Palantir right back to 81, which is nice on Palantir. SoFi 1644, that's up 3%. MasterCard's up 3%. AMD's up 1.3%. And then Micron right here up 3.6% on the day. UPS is down 15%. Really? Holy crap. How did we miss this today? How did we miss this? I guess I forgot that UPS was doing earnings. 15%. UPS over the past year, this stock is now down 22%. So it was down 7% over the past year, down 15% today. Let me see if I can get their numbers. They beat on EPS, they missed on revenue, but they missed on revenue by $10 million. And they beat on EPS by 20 cents. Something they must have said is getting the street upset, dude. 16% on a company that pays a 6% dividend. You're not supposed to see 20% moves on companies that pay a 6% dividend. What did they say? What the hell did they say? UPS guided that they lost their number one partner. Huh. Oh, they lost Amazon. Oh, wow. Oh, that's not good. That's not good. They lost Amazon. See, this is the thing about these tech companies, bro. Like, everyone needs these tech companies more than these tech companies need everybody else. Because Amazon has all the money to do their own shit. They can deliver all of their stuff. They're vertically integrated. They don't need to rely on UPS. So if Amazon wants to cut them out, Amazon can cut them out. Wow, yeah, that's not good, bro. Amazon, you can't lose Amazon, or you can't work less with Amazon. Where's the growth going to come from if you don't have Amazon helping you deliver packages? Yeah, that's not the best thing for UPS. I don't even, just off that headline alone, I don't think it's worth buying the dip. I mean, I got to go through the numbers and see if there's any. Me and Steve will go through the numbers on this. We'll see if there's anything good here. Let me call Steve, by the way. Let's see if he's available. He said he wanted to call in today. Let's see if we can get his thoughts on the earnings we saw yesterday. But Yeah, this is a prime stock for Steve to do a deep dive on. He likes looking at these names, so we'll see if there's any juice to squeeze on UPS here. Nubank right here still up 3.6%, and Google at 201. That's up 2.38%.
Hello.
Steve, good morning. How are you?
What's up, man?
We are live on the market open, and everyone has been waiting to get your reaction on yesterday's
I
earnings.
mean, I don't know how you can be on the market open when it's not a physical thing.
Anyway, good morning. Did you have your breakfast? You had your 3 bagels with...
Yeah, I actually called you when I was walking to go get my breakfast.
Okay, great. So what's the breakfast order again? Can you say it again? The special every day?
3 eggs, peppers, onions, salt, pepper, ketchup on a wrap.
Okay. I'm going to get that one day. I will get that one
I
day.
mean, I used to get 4 eggs, but the wrap just didn't close right. Getting 4, so I cut it down to 3.
Guys, this guy can eat. When we went to get dinner at Ben and Jack's, he had a full steak, and then like 3 hours later, he called me. He's like, "Yeah, I feel like getting some Chick-fil-A." I'm like, "Dude, we just had like he can eat. He's a tank."
And I was done with my steak before you guys basically even started.
Oh, you did. You didn't even smile in the picture because you were mad that we took a picture and that stopped you
Yeah, I
from
was
eating the
eating.
steak. So
I was eating.
you were eating. I know. I get it. Okay, so I want to start off with earnings. First off, Meta. What was your reaction?
Crushed it. Absolutely amazing.
Do you think Meta deserves to be at $700 right now?
And it deserves to be higher.
Why?
What, 45% of the globe uses its products. I mean, it's just a huge crush. Haven't even fully monetized stuff. And this is a company that is just still in full-blown growth mode. It's incredible what they're doing.
They said...
And name me the competition.
I agree. It's hard to find the competition. Now, they also said they're going to do Capex of 60 to 65 billion, and they're going to spend hundreds of billions over the coming years. Do you think they kind of broke down this whole DeepSeek nonsense?
I am not changing my stance on DeepSeek. I think that it's a nothing burger. I think if anything, it's going to make the arms race even more intense. And there's no way that I believe they did what they did on $6 million. And with all the reports coming out, it seems like my initial thoughts were correct.
Okay, so then last question here on Meta. They said 700 million people use Meta AI. They haven't really monetized WhatsApp. They're continuing to increase their buybacks. What do you think is the bear case? Is there a bear case for Meta? Because people are thinking, hey, at 700, it's run up 6x from the lows.
You know what? With Lena Khan not here anymore, pretty hard to see one.
That's fair.
Meta's not getting broken up. Amazon's not getting broken up, and Alphabet's not getting broken up. And what happens when Zuck does a share split? Think about that. They haven't split shares yet. Wait until that happens, and the stock goes back to like $75 or $100, and you increase the volume on it. Just wait.
No, that is a fair point. Okay, so let's talk about NVIDIA then. They're down 2.7%. Microsoft did say they're not going to be growing their Capex as much as they did in 2025, even though Zuck said they're going to be spending a lot of money. Is NVIDIA still a buy the dip to you?
Absolutely. And think about what I said to you the other night. That $80 billion, I think, is all of fiscal year 25, not calendar year 25, because they report on a biannual basis. And even if they drop their Capex in the upcoming fiscal year from 80 to 60 billion, doesn't matter. NVIDIA still can't make as many chips as what the backlogs are. That's the thing. Even if Microsoft decreases their forward year Capex, NVIDIA still has a massive backlog. So it's fine. Especially, you got to think that Alphabet and Amazon and Meta are going to be buying so much with Microsoft still. Once again, it's a nothing burger. I think all this gets cleared up on the conference call when we see how big of a beat NVIDIA comes in with and how big the revenue and profitability is.
By the way, we're looking at that picture we took at Ben and Jack's with Tanner and Roy, and yeah, as you guys can see, he is not smiling to take this picture. He was upset, but he looks like Clark Kent. He literally looks like Clark Kent. So,
I mean, I was eating.
I get it, but we want to capture a moment
Like, who
for
wants
memories.
who wants
you
to
know?
take a picture while they're eating? Like, I don't get it.
It's about the memories, Steve. It's about the memories. Okay, so Nvidia is still a buy the dip to you. So I talk more about that. You said after earnings, you think the street's going to wake up and think this was stupid.
Yep.
And the reason for that is because you think Nvidia is going to show the earnings growth and the guidance that they were always going to show with no hiccups from DeepSeek.
There's no hiccups whatsoever. Blackwell just started shipping. I mean, you look at a 1-year chart. This stock is consolidated off of the last earnings report, and it should have been up off the last earnings report. I mean, this is incredible what's going on. It may even be lower now than it was when they released earnings in Q3. And I think their profitability is going to be crazy. I think they're going to increase buybacks. Certainly going to talk about huge demand going forward. And if this DeepSeek thing taught us anything, it said we have to take AI way more seriously and throw everything we can at it from all angles, because nobody is slowing down. And other countries are trying to copy what we're doing. So this is not a bearish thing. In fact, I may even exit a position or two and buy more NVIDIA this week.
What you're saying is what Zuckerberg said yesterday as well. Zuck said that open source will be the standard and we have to spend more. And Pat Gelsinger also bought Intel yesterday, and he said, you guys are getting it wrong. We have to buy more. So
yeah. This is an opportunity, in my opinion. I mean, $3 trillion market cap. This is a company that is on pace to do $100 billion of profit 2025. I mean, I don't see the bear case right now.
Okay, so let's transition to your favorite stock in the market.
I was so happy when it was red, now it's green, and I'm not happy anymore.
What
and
stock?
I have a wall of meetings I'm going into, and I'm not going to be happy.
What, NVIDIA?
No, Tesla.
Oh, Tesla. Oh, well, that's a good transition to your favorite stock in the market.
Yeah, it should be down triple digits right now.
Okay, so to talk to me more about this. Why do you think Tesla does not deserve to be in the 400s?
Look, I'm a shareholder. It doesn't benefit me for Tesla to go down, but I'm also a realist. And when you look at the numbers, this is a stock that has never played by the rules, but the valuation is absolutely insane. If you look at the quarter, this was not a good quarter. Great company, but even great companies have bad quarters. And when you have that much earnings erosion that occurs and the oil business slacks, I mean, think about the amount of growth in energy and storage, and that couldn't even prop this up. They continue to issue shares and dilute shareholders, which they've always done, and nobody seems to care about it. They're now generating less profit, and there is no clear-cut picture that anything that Musk says is actually going to happen and impact top and bottom line this year. I mean, okay, great. Full self-driving in Austin at some point this year. Okay, great. Show me how you monetize this. Because once again, I was talking to Chris and Matt last night on Cash Flow Chronicles, and a Tesla employee, I mean, they say he's a Tesla employee, I don't know the guy, said that this is going to, ride hail is going to be $1 trillion freaking revenue thing. I'm like, no, it's not. The taxi cab industry isn't even a $300 billion market right now. It's only expected to get to $430 billion in 2029. Show me how you're going to generate $1 trillion in revenue year over year from ride hailing when the taxi cab market isn't even expected to be half of that. I mean, you're telling me, and this has been my fundamental problem with the whole FSD thing. With ride hailing, Tesla would have to get the entire ride hailing market globally, then convince people not to buy cars and just use it to double the growth rate over the next 5 years to get to $1 trillion of revenue. It doesn't make sense.
So why do you think Elon is saying that FSD justifies massive?
It's his job to do that. Elon, what did I tell you? The only way Tesla goes up, if earnings come in the way that I think they're going to come in, which they did come in, how I said they were going to come in, was for him to talk his book and pump this up in massive enthusiasm. And this is coming from somebody who believes Tesla is going to be the most valuable company in the world in the future because of robots. But we're very far away from that picture.
Okay, hold on. So let's talk about that. I mean, he did say they would grow robots 500% over the next couple of years. Do you think
I think they will, but they're starting at zero, so it's not hard to grow robots 500%.
Okay, but do you think there's not any multiple? I mean, you bought this stock because of robots.
Right, but I bought it under 200.
So
all I'm saying is you can pay way too much for a company. And really think about this. Tesla's valuation is, 1.3 trillion right now or something like that. They did just under $8 billion of net income, okay? If they 10x their net income, theoretically at the same margin, they have to 10x their revenue.
right.
What is the street going to give them as a multiple on that? They're going to say it's a $10 trillion company? Well, guess what? Apple, Microsoft, and Alphabet all at one point or another have exceeded 70 billion in revenue. I'm sorry, 70 billion in net income. So none of them have ever traded for more than $4 trillion. None of them have even traded more than $3.8 trillion. So at some point, people have to be realistic about this valuation. I'm not saying that Tesla can't have these phenomenal growth rates. I'm not saying that they can't get to 500 billion in revenue and 80 billion in profits. In the future, they can, but that's already been accomplished. Amazon is on its way to do 700 billion this year in revenue. And you've had companies that have consistently done 90 billion plus in profit.
Okay, so hold on. We got. Let me do a little bit of pushback here. So someone says in the chat, comparing the current size of the market of ride hailing and the autonomous future is like comparing smartphone market size with regular phone market size.
That's because people actually think people are going to get rid of cars to call a freaking Tesla. You have that already with Uber. People aren't getting rid of cars to call an Uber. People are using Ubers when they don't want to drive because they've been drinking or when they're in the city for work during the day. Not getting rid of cars. Go to any train station. Like I actually live, and you know where I live, in one of the most heavily dense place. I drive past a ton of train stations. Every parking lot's packed. Nobody is getting Ubers from the train station home. People are driving their cars.
Well, I think if FSD robotaxis can reduce the cost per mile, because they get rid of the driver.
Okay. And I'm glad you said that because I was going to say that. That plays into my case. FSD reduces the cost per mile. Guess what happens? Your overall revenue for the market shrinks. So now that 430 billion they're estimating the ride-hailing market to be, the taxi cab market to be, if it's all ride-hailing, it's probably only 350 or 300.
Yeah, but what if they expand? What if they expand the market? Like, what if more volumes drive the expansion of the TAM in and of itself?
Look, anything's possible, but you already have a growth rate from marketing companies about how big the taxi market's going to be. You have to see how this story plays out. But basically, they're betting, and investors are hoping that people get rid of their cars and just use ride-hailing. There's no difference between that and Uber except a person driving. That's the only difference. You can order an Uber.
Well, that's a big difference, though.
1 minute.
That's a pretty big difference. That matters.
It's not a big difference.
Not
a big difference at all.
If it's more safer, yeah, that becomes a big difference. And if you don't believe it's more safer, you might just not believe in FSD, which is fine.
I'm not saying that it's not going to be safer. I'm just saying that I don't think people really look. Once again, I have a different point of view because I see the amount of people getting in yellow cabs and Ubers all day long. I can look out my window of my office and look at it all day long. Nobody is worried about safety getting into a cab or an Uber. Got news for you. You know this.
All right, so you don't believe in FSD yet. You don't really think the robotic story.
I'm not saying I don't believe in FSD or that it's not going to be real. I don't believe in the revenue it's going to generate in ride-hailing. I think everybody who owns a Tesla is going to consider upgrading to it. And when you have full FSD and it really works, and I can get an insurance policy for it, I'll happily buy a Tesla and let it drive me around. But I'm not letting my Tesla go pick random people up and drive them around, one. And two, I'm not getting a ride-hailing service. I'm still going to drive.
I mean, look, you might not want to do that, but if other people are happy making money off their car, like I don't think that's something that's bearish.
Right, and that's fine. And people may do that. People may buy 10 Teslas and do that. But there needs to be a need for those actual rides to actually generate the revenue. And right now, they're talking about numbers that are more than double the current revenue of the entire global taxi industry. The robotics play is a much better argument for multiple expansion than ride hailing.
So you think eventually the street wakes up and this stock collapses, or how do you think?
I don't think, listen, I don't think it ever goes down, to be very honest with you. I think that if this quarter couldn't take it down, I don't think anything takes it down at this point. I think everybody is drinking the hopium at this point.
No, but that's a hell of a point. If this quarter, if not growing or losing 8% year over year in terms of
this
annual
is
growth,
a growth company that doesn't freaking grow.
Yeah, exactly.
Think about that.
But if that can't take it down, that means
Taking it down.
That means the potential is what people are betting on, which is
forget about the potential. This ain't nobody. People are freaking buying this today at 170 times earnings. They're crazy.
Well, to be fair, though, a little bit of pushback here. Amazon traded at 150 times earnings for a decade before they became Amazon. So, like, it's not like we haven't seen this story play out before where people buy it expensive and then it ends up being a good story, right?
The difference with Amazon, Amazon told everybody every year until probably 2017 or so that they're not focused on profitability. They're focused on building everything out, and they provided exactly what was going to happen.
I think Elon's giving us a vision too. I don't think Elon's sidestepping the longer term vision. He's telling people what he's going to do. Maybe he's not giving all the numbers that Amazon did.
Services and e-commerce is much different than FSD and robotics.
No, it is much different. The margins on e-commerce are shit compared to the margins on FSD.
There are way less what ifs.
Oh, there's tons of less what ifs, but the exponential growth of e-commerce is not the exponential growth of humanoid robotics.
Humanoid robotics is going to be the biggest thing in our lifetime.
Okay.
I'm convinced of that.
But I'm saying
you don't have to sell me on that. I'm convinced on that.
So if Elon is providing a foundation for the next decade of what that looks like, why is that not similar to Amazon in 2010?
Right now, we don't know what the manufacturing capacity is going to be. There's so many things we don't know about it. There are too many unknowns. What I'm saying is today, based on the numbers, Tesla's grossly overvalued compared to other companies that have much better growth rates. NVIDIA has a much higher growth rate and trades at a fraction of Tesla. All I am saying is for people not to get worried right now, and people still buying this at this valuation is crazy tonight, considering where you can buy NVIDIA at today. It doesn't make any sense.
All right. Let's end it off with Microsoft. So Microsoft did $25 billion in net income. They're down 5%. What do you think the street doesn't like?
People are shook. People are like, oh my God, you're slowed a little bit. Got news for everybody. Look at the bottom line. This is a phenomenal company. And I don't think people realize how important their cloud services and their office products actually are. Everybody uses it. It is ingrained in business. And this is a company that is just going to keep doing wonders.
Well, so here's my thing. And I was talking to you about this last night. Do you think Microsoft can get to $15, $20 trillion one day?
I mean, one day, probably.
But see, but even the hesitation in your voice, that is why people are buying Tesla.
Those are such big numbers, though. And we're not even at a $5 trillion company. And what has to happen with GDP and everything else to get those numbers? If we get a market that goes that high, okay, and this could be 30, 40 years in the future. If we get a market that goes that high, I think Microsoft will be one of the companies that goes that high. But I don't think this isn't going to happen in the next decade. No way.
But Steve, hold on. This is my point. If people don't see the $10 trillion vision for Microsoft, which quite frankly, I don't know how the hell they get to 10 trillion. I would love to hear the argument, but they can see, even if it's not real right now, the $10 or $15 trillion vision for Tesla because they can understand the TAMs of emerging sectors. Isn't that kind of a narrative-driven reason to buy Tesla over Microsoft?
If you are buying Tesla for 10 or 15 years and you really don't care about this price, all power to you, because most likely it'll be higher. All I'm saying is right now, Tesla should have sold off this print. That's all I'm saying. Is that it should have sold off of this print. And that doesn't benefit me to say that.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
over the long term, and I've never changed my stance on that I think Tesla's going to be the most valuable company in 10, 20 years from now. But right now, this was not a good quarter. People are trying to justify it. People are coming up with this hopium stuff that they're drinking. to try to sell a narrative around something that's not even happening right now to justify the quarter that was just reported. You know, sometimes retracements need to happen off of bad numbers. And this is something that should happen. Microsoft retraced off of incredible numbers, yet Tesla goes off a horrible quarter. Come on. It's ridiculous.
I think
and
that
it makes me even wonder about who the hell is buying this right now.
No, I think that proves that narratives are driving the big tech names a little bit more than earnings.
Dude, they definitely are. Look at Palantir.
Well, Palantir's not big tech yet, but
It's big tech.
I mean, if it keeps going the way it's going, it's going to be big tech pretty soon.
I mean, you know, Palantir's numbers don't justify it. I mean, there's a few companies that are ridiculous. Tesla's valuation's insane.
So Karp's going to be on CNBC in 20 minutes. What do you think he's going to talk about today?
He's probably going to be like, you know, feet on the table, sitting back, smoking a cigar, saying, I told you it's about what you build on LLMs. This is his victory moment. Everybody thinks I was clowning everybody. Listen, Palantir could go to 120 to
See, the fact that you're laughing means you were clowning, bro. You're not serious.
No, they could go to 120, 150 after earnings at this point.
Dude, but he is going to take a victory lap on this whole LLM
100%
commoditized.
he's taking a victory lap. 100%. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
And he's got every right to, because he's been saying this for a while.
So, okay, how do you interpret going on CNBC 2 days before earnings? Bullish or bearish?
Oh, they're reporting on freaking Monday?
Yes.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Do you think it's damage control, or do you think it's hyping it up for a good earnings? Like, how do you?
I don't know. I'm sure he'll be on CNBC a lot on Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's in general they're pretty confident, and that's why they're doing it. But there could be another perspective too. You know.
I don't know. We got to see what he says, but it's probably going to be around. I think they're trying to get a bunch of people to talk about this whole China thing.
Yes, that's another angle. Yeah.
Because this is the narrative right now. So they want people, and look, there's certain people you want discussing it. Karp's the top 5 person you want discussing this because he understands this realm better than anybody.
Okay, let me ask you about another stock, which I don't know if you saw it fall 20% today.
I haven't looked at anything really, so I don't know.
Okay, so UPS is down 16.8%.
Yeah, that's something I've been looking at off and on. I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but it's very interesting. I gotta look into it. It looks like, I don't know.
So, well, the reason why, I just want to give you the headline and I want to get your raw reaction. They said that they're probably losing a ton of business from Amazon, which is their biggest partner. I think 50% they guided of losing packages from them. Is that an opportunity, or is that like oh my God, Amazon's eating everyone's lunch?
No, it may not be. I mean, how many times, if you order products, okay, how many times do you use Amazon Prime versus going to a department store or somewhere else that ships via FedEx or UPS? I would say half the packages that come to my household are from Amazon.
Yeah.
If not more. Think about it. Unless it's a very specific thing that you need, I would argue that most people's first thought is go to Amazon. Because you know what? I'll pay $1 more, $2 more to have it same or next day.
So that's just undercutting UPS's bottom line, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a problem for FedEx also. I mean, and when I walk through the city, I definitely see more Amazon trucks than anything else.
Yeah.
So I'd want to look into it more, but Amazon is the best logistical network behind the DoD, and that's never going to change. You can't replicate what Amazon did. It's just, they have poured so much money into it, and they did it for a reason. And you got a lot of people using Amazon because of convenience.
Okay, last question, Steve. Apple is today. What do you expect after the bell?
Oh, Apple's today?
Yeah.
What time?
I mean, 4:20-ish, around about.
You know what? I'm going to go get an apple, and I'm going to eat it as they report. In fact, I think I have one with that. Did I even bring one? Hold on.
You have an apple in your lunchbox, Steve?
Hold on. I'm going to take a picture for you. Where's my phone?
Did your mom pack some Lunchables for you as well? She...
No, those are disgusting. What are you talking about?
No, Lunchables are not disgusting. Lunchables are good.
They're so bad for you.
Dude, they're bad for you, but they're good.
Hold on.
Robinhood, by the way, folks, 53.15, 52-week high on hoodie. They got upgraded by KeyBank to 57 today. So that's another thing that's pushing them up.
Look at your phone.
You send me a picture of an apple. Yeah, there. Wow, you have an apple. That's great.
I'm going to eat that when earnings come out.
Okay, so do you think it's going to go? I didn't ask you about eating the apple. Do you think it's going to go up or down? That's my question.
Yeah, I think it's going to I think it's going to do well.
What if the apple? How long has that apple been in your lunchbox?
Since this morning.
Because if it's been a couple of days, it could be a little bit of a rotten apple when you eat it, and these earnings might be a little rotten
fresh.
as well.
I mean, I go to the farm every week to get my apples.
I don't know about Apple. My thing is, I do agree they can pump because they already fell from 260. So how much worse do they fall, right?
Unless the market's going to, I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm not buying this. We're going to find out today, but I'm not buying that people weren't buying Apple products during the holiday season, that they weren't using Apple services, that Apple wasn't buying back shares. Apple buys back more than $1 billion worth of shares a week. Think about that.
I mean, again, I don't think that's the bull thesis,
They
but
buy
again,
back more shares a week than some companies make in a quarter in profit.
Yeah. Look, you're not wrong about that. You're not wrong.
The idea of business is to make money. Okay, Apple does it hand over fist, and it's the greatest shareholder company because they continuously reward shareholders with buybacks. All there is to it. They don't need to grow revenue, although it would be nice if they actually start growing revenue again to increase EPS, because they continue to take $80 to $100 billion of shares off the table every year. It's incredible.
All right.
Each share just ends up producing more EPS. It's no better company than Apple at this point.
All right. Well, we'll be
So we'll
covering
see.
Apple after the bell. We'll see what.
So
they
we'll
produce.
see. But I may exit my fucking Square position at this point, even though I want to hold them in the earnings. There may be a bigger opportunity in Nvidia than holding Square at this point.
Unless Bitcoin goes to the moon, I agree. I think Nvidia might be a little.
I think Square is very undervalued, but you know what? I wouldn't be heartbroken swapping that position out for more Nvidia at this point.
I don't think that's crazy.
So I will give you a call later, and we can discuss some Apple later.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, Steve. We'll talk to you later.
All right, later.
Later. All right. So, Steve, that is his thoughts on earnings. Again, Apple after the bell. That's going to be an important one. Wow, Hood not stopping, 53.18. So we got an upgrade from KeyBank. I didn't even know these guys covered Hood. I guess I missed their coverage a while ago. But they went from 50 to 57, and they said survey results lean positive for Robinhood as we observed several notable data points across new product initiatives, a step up in gold subscriber intent. Respondents were interested in futures trading, continues to surprise an uptick in our current survey. Finally, an appetite to take investment advisory services is both a validation of strategic direction, especially in their trade PMR acquisition they did, and a signal that supports the continual addition of longer duration assets. In the spirit of balanced commentary, retirement account opening intent modestly downticked as the weighted average fee describing respondent willingness to pay for advisory services is yield dilutive. So overall, they've seen a lot more potential in the surveys they've done for consumers to adopt Robinhood's new product initiatives, and that's why they upgraded the stock. There you go. 53.20 on Hoodie. Absolutely incredible day, up 4% right here. Pouncer as well, 80.69. Reddit's down a little bit. Rocket Lab giving back all of its 5% gains back to 28.67. So really oscillating now between 28 and 30. That's where it's going back and forth. SoFi 16.43. Broadcom up 6%. NVIDIA continues to get hit. It needs to hold 120. It's not really been doing a good job at that. We'll see throughout the day if it can hold there, but 119.9, it's not going back to the 117s, at least not yet. We're not seeing that, but it is holding it is at least oscillating between 118, 120. Even if it's not back to that 125, 127 level. It's kind of funny because after the initial collapse, it got back to 127 two times. And then both times it just got hit right back to 119, 120. And so maybe forming a little bit more of a base at those two levels as well. Is Rocket Lab consolidating for a breakout? Maybe. I think Rocket Lab already broke out though. Not even over the past year, given it's up 600%, but over the past 2 weeks, given it's up 35%. So I think this is more so just healthy price action. I mean, Rocket Lab going to $40 right now probably would be excessive given there's no real catalyst, but Rocket Lab holding these levels and beginning to normalize this range is good because maybe it never has to see the low 20s again. Baba as well, dude. Shout out to China. Baba getting some love. The Quen 2.5 model beat DeepSeek on a lot of different benchmarks, and it looks like the market's taking Alibaba more seriously as a AI cloud computing provider, up 4.39% on the day. FXI is the China large cap ETF. That's up 2% today as well. So not bad at all. Okay, what else? What other headlines do we got going on? So we got Carp in 10 minutes. Kash Patel is going to be confirmed today. Is he being confirmed right now? He is being confirmed right now, I think. Tulsi Gabbard is also being confirmed today. So let's go to that for like a couple minutes. Let's just see what's happening there, and then we'll go back to some other market stuff as well. I'm Beneficial. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Congrats to my Hood rats. Congrats to everyone who's in Hood. Incredible execution, and they're putting up the growth to be able to justify continuing to get this momentum. All right, here's a little bit from Kash Patel right now.
With people who have proven themselves willing to do violence on Trump's call. In only 10 days, some are already back committing crimes. We've also tried as a committee together to address the dangers of illicit drug sales over the internet.
Okay, I don't want to listen to this, dude. This is it's all going to be political, bro. We're not going to get any economy stuff. Nothing. I forgot. Kash Patel is not in an economic role. It's all going to be freaking January 6th and this and that, and his conspiracy theories from the podcast he's been on. Like, it's just going to be a mess. So honestly, I'd rather not even go. There's nothing valuable we're going to get from that. There's maybe some entertainment. We'll get some good clips later, but there's not going to be anything crazy. Speaking of clips, I do want to see the Elizabeth Warren clip with RFK. I didn't watch it yesterday. I don't know if you guys watched it, but apparently it was rather entertaining. So maybe we can watch a little bit of this because I did not see this. So let's pull this up and see what happened here.
About fees from suing drug companies. Will you agree not to do that?
You're asking me to not sue drug companies,
no,
and I'm not going to agree to that.
Drug
Senator.
companies as much as you want.
I'm not going to agree to not sue drug companies or anybody.
So let's do a quick count here of how, as Secretary of HHS, if you get confirmed, you could influence every one of those lawsuits. Well, let me start the list. You could publish your anti-vaccine conspiracies, but this time on U.S. government letterhead, something a jury might be impressed by. You could appoint people to the CDC vaccine panel who share your anti-vax views and let them do your dirty work. You could tell the CDC vaccine panel to remove a particular vaccine from the vaccine schedule. You could remove vaccines from special compensation programs, which would open up manufacturers to mass torts. You could make more injuries eligible for compensation, even if there is no causal evidence. You could change vaccine court processes to make it easier to bring junk lawsuits. You could turn over FDA data to your friends at the law firm, and they could use it however it benefited them. You could change vaccine labeling. You could change vaccine information rules. You could change which claims are compensated in the vaccine injury compensation program. There's a lot of ways that you can influence those future lawsuits and pending lawsuits while you are Secretary of HHS. And I'm asking you to commit right now that you will not take a financial stake in every one of those lawsuits so that what you do as Secretary will also benefit you financially down the line.
I'll comply with all the ethical guidelines.
That's not the question. You have said
you're asking me, Senator, you're asking me not to sue vaccine pharmaceutical companies.
Not.
Yeah, you are. That's exactly what you're doing.
No. Look, No one should be fooled here. As
fought that
Secretary
from-
of HHS, Robert Kennedy will have the power to undercut vaccines and vaccine manufacturing across our country. And for all of his talk about follow the science and his promise that he won't interfere with those of us who want to vaccinate his kids, the bottom line is the same. Kennedy can kill off access to vaccines and make millions of dollars while he does it. Kids might die, but Robert Kennedy can keep cashing in.
Senator, I support vaccines. I support the childhood schedule. I will do that. The only thing I want is good science, and that's it.
How about then say you won't make money off what you do as Secretary of HHS?
Well, there you go. Going at it. We are definitely getting some entertainment from these confirmation hearings. It's just, dude, I just can't wait until it's over. Once this is done and the cabinet's in place and we can get back to like actual policy stuff, because all of this is a show. We know all of these guys are getting confirmed. We know they're going to be voted in, even if JD Vance has to be the deciding vote. And so a lot of this is going to be done with in the next month, and then we can actually get to policies. But you're going to have the Warrens of the world that take it as an opportunity to definitely have their moment in the sun and grandstand the way they can. NVIDIA is tanking again. NVIDIA 118.67. I'm buying the dip. I'm buying another 25 shares. We are going down with the ship, folks. NVIDIA, here we go, 25. I've bought more NVIDIA than I've ever bought in my entire life this week. 118.71. We're in. We are in. Dude, I still have puts at 110. So if this thing gets to 110, I'll have another 200 shares. But 400 shares now, 126 is the average. NVIDIA's a $50,000 position. It's a $50,000. There you go. NVIDIA's a $50,000 position. So I think we'll buy the final 100 shares of that 500 if it actually gets to 110. If it really gets to 110, I'll let one of those puts be assigned. I mean, I don't know. 110's what? Another freaking $400 billion of market cap being wiped away. I don't know if that's justified at all. But the market has the narrative that they have right now, and that narrative is not helpful for NVIDIA. Meta right here at 688. Carp is going to be on in 5 minutes. Carp is not up yet. He probably won't be up literally at 11. He'll probably up like 11:05. So we'll be live as soon as he's live. But he is not live here right now. Yeah, see, the Warren thing, a lot of you guys are saying right here, she's already paid so much by Big Pharma. It's very interesting, bro. A lot of people think of RFK as a check against Big Pharma, and they think of some of the legacy senators as people that are bought and sold by pharma companies. Pharma companies are the biggest advertisers in the world. And then you have other people on Warren's side that thinks that RFK isn't, being someone who understands the nature of science and health. And so there's like these conflicting narratives that go back and forth in such a egregious degree. But regardless of what Warren thinks, he's going to get confirmed, and he will be the new secretary, HHS in the United States. I mean, what are your predictions for SMCI earnings? I have no clue, bro. I don't know if NVIDIA is still in the gutter. SMCI probably stays in the gutter. But if they're not going bankrupt because they're not in accounting fraud, I think they gap up just based off that. So who knows? At this point, this NVIDIA thing completely ruined a lot of the semiconductor thesis for a lot of these names, at least until NVIDIA recovers. But we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see when this ends up playing out. Grab's going down today. Yeah, Grab's not holding on. It had a great day yesterday, but not being able to hold on, down 2.5%. Google can't hold 200. Is Google falling as well? Google 199. Yeah. I think Google's earnings are going to be good, bro. I don't think they're going to be bad. I think cloud growth is going to be strong. Search will be strong. YouTube will be strong. Maybe guidance on cloud is going to be a little weak, like Microsoft's guidance was, and that could potentially hurt them and Amazon. But outside of that, I don't think there's a glaring bear case for Google, especially given the FTC is going to get off Google's back and let them just continue to innovate. So I don't know, should be a decent one. It's crazy though, dude. This is we have 2 days left of January, right? And so we have January 31st tomorrow, then we're in February. And the question is going to be, the question is going to be when it comes to the rest of the year, was January just one of those decent months for the market where we were up 4% and then we give back a lot of it over the next couple of months? Or do we keep compounding at these levels and continue to maintain the momentum that the market has maintained? And I don't think anyone knows. I think the CPI data is good enough to think. J-Pow, we didn't talk too much about J-Pow, but J-Pow did say that he is relatively bullish on the state of the economy. He was being dovish. He said crypto regulations are good. He refused to answer any Trump questions, so he didn't make any headlines. He did say we aren't in a hurry to cut rates, which isn't bad. It isn't good, but it does mean that he thinks the economy and the labor market are not too bad. And so as long as that inflation read can continue to come down with the labor market staying stabilized and earnings growth for Q1 propping up the broader equity valuations, we're going to have a good year. But, the market's going to have to see how that plays out going into the end of 2025. Trump said he's going to be live talking about the American Airlines crash in just a minute. I don't know if he's actually going to be live. I will keep an eye on CNBC for CARP. He is not there yet. I really doubt it's literally going to be 11 a.m. It's probably going to be like 11:10, 11:15. But as soon as I see it, I will switch to CARP. And in the meantime, we'll see if we can get some other coverage in other parts of the market. All right, who's buying the dip? Did anyone do any buying today? Did anyone do any buying today? Amit, why is the NVIDIA dip not really bad on NVIDIA right now? Even though I think it's pretty stupid, I think the narrative is really bad. Microsoft lowering their Capex growth guidance is not helping them. But it's weird because Meta said they're going to spend a lot of money. So I kind of think the market's being irrational right here on NVIDIA, and I think they're going to need to see a really monster earnings. But also, quite frankly, is this not healthy for NVIDIA, dude? Gapping down 20% before one of their best quarters ever, I think that's kind of healthy. It gets new buyers to step in, right? So Jason talks a lot about this whole idea of liquidity grabs and getting more and more people to enter into the stock. You get previous buyers who have not bought the dip for a long time starting to get into buying NVIDIA because they've had such massive positions, and you build more support at a certain level. And so if we can do that, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. All right, let's see if CARP is on right now. I think he's about to be on. Let me transition here and see if they have him in.
The president is expected to address
reporters. No, they're talking about Trump. Okay, so we'll get their coverage, but they're going to switch over to CARP probably in the next 5 to 10 minutes.
In just a moment, we're going to take you there live when that begins. In the meantime, Eamon Javers is on the ground near Reagan International with the latest update. Good morning again, Eamon.
Yeah, good morning to you, Carl. What we know now is that officials are saying there were no survivors from this incident at about 8:48 p.m. last night when a commercial jet crashed into a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter here just off of Reagan National Airport. They are getting the airport.
Oh, okay. So we already got the update from him, so we don't need to watch that there. CARP, again, it's probably going to be 11:15, dude. They always say 11 a.m., but it is likely not going to be at 11. But going back to NVIDIA, yeah, I think isn't that kind of a rational argument, which is that the stock falls 20%, loses a ton of market cap. You got a lot of OGs that have held the stock for a long time. They realize, okay, this is a great opportunity for me to load up again. You got people like me that never have been in NVIDIA saying, all right, I'm a buyer at these prices. You get more and more people into the story, even if algorithms and hedge funds or whatever take it down, maybe Chinese hedge funds. I feel like it does set it up if the growth is there. If the growth is not there, NVIDIA is going to crash below 100 and it's going to be an epic collapse. But if the growth is there, which all of us are expecting the growth to be there, then maybe it's not the craziest thing in the world that it takes this breather. And maybe it's rather healthy going into earnings. But ultimately, earnings are going to have to show us the growth, and we'll see how this ends up playing out. Trump is not live yet. CARP is not live yet either, so still waiting on both of those, but they should be live in the next 15 minutes. Also, the Bay Area form, I put that in the chat. I'm going to put it in the chat again. This is the form. If anyone wants to sign up, I will put this on Twitter as well. We'll have details on Saturday. But for those that want to come to the meetup in the Bay Area, this is the link in the chat. And you can click it there. This time I'm doing email, not phone number. So please make sure if you're gonna sign up, just keep an eye on your email. You'll get the Telegram link in your email. It's easier for me to send it to everyone's email. And Amazon right here down 1.65%. If you sign up, just watch for your email. You'll get a link to the Telegram group, and that'll have all the details coming in over the next coming weeks. Carp is still not live yet. Again, it's probably going to be 15 minutes. It's probably not literally going to happen at 11:03, but he should be live soon, and then we'll get him. Let me pull up a couple other things here as well. Has the date been decided? I think it's going to be February 13th, most likely. I'm like 90% sure that might change, but more likely than not, it'll be February 13th. So if you can keep that date free, that's a Thursday. I would do Friday, but that's Valentine's Day. And, you know, most people are probably going to be busy on Valentine's Day. So 13th, I think, is a little bit better. The 12th is, I would do it on the 12th, but we got Robinhood earnings on the 12th. And so I'm probably going to be a little busy covering that company. But so 13th seems like it's going to be the best day. And it's Thirsty Thursdays, right? So hopefully people can come after work and you can just chill and we can all do the meetup. Thoughts on Elf? I love Elf. I love their management. I know nothing about the stock. If you were going to buy Elf though, and Jason said this the other day, this is where you would buy it, right? If you really do believe in the thesis, like you buy this dip from 140 to 106. I listened to one of their earnings call last quarter and I absolutely loved it. I thought management was it's one of the most competent management calls I've ever heard, but I just don't know enough about makeup or beauty or, you know, if like there's a real long-term thesis here. I do know the stock was $7 less than a couple years ago, and they've, you know, they grew really well. They used TikTok and marketing to grow really well on social media. So they did a massive upswing from $7, but now I'm not exactly sure what the growth story is on Elf. JTB, thank you for the $5 super chat. I believe, or I'm considering dumping my Tesla IRA shares and picking up NVIDIA on the dip. That's a hard one, bro. Because if you put a gun to my head and say Tesla or NVIDIA over the next decade, it is Tesla, and there's no hesitation. Because I just believe FSD and robotics are going to be bigger verticals than whatever NVIDIA is getting into. And I know NVIDIA is the back end for a lot of that stuff, but at the end of the day, Tesla, I see not only just growth, but expanding growth that is beyond our wildest imaginations. I think NVIDIA already had the growth that is beyond our wildest imaginations. It's happened, and maybe it can continue to happen. But the verticals that are just beginning are, in my opinion, FSD and robotics. So yeah, I would pick Tesla over NVIDIA. I wouldn't really sell Tesla for NVIDIA right here. I would try to find something else to sell for NVIDIA. But then again, it just comes up to, you know, what your conviction is on these names long term. Yeah, I should know about makeup because I get a manicure. Dude, I need another manicure. My nails are getting nasty. So I think it's time to cough up another $30 and get another manicure. Okay, so let's listen to this analyst on NVIDIA. I think some of you guys might know her, Beth Kindig. She has been in NVIDIA for a long time, and she is relatively bullish on this dip. She bought more of an NVIDIA. Carp is not live yet. I'll switch to Carp as soon as he's live, probably another 10 minutes. But let's listen to her, and then we'll keep going from there.
Kindig. Beth, I got to tell you, I've been thinking about you all weekend. So this is what I did. I'm studying this thing, right? Most of it's going over my head. I created a checklist of what the folks who said that DeepSeek is real, why they say it's real. I want your thoughts on it. If we could just go through the checklist. For instance, the multi-token system, they say, and also let's go, the reinforced learning gives it an edge over ChatGPT. Do you agree?
I think quite a few things on the checklist are things that ChatGPT and others leverage now and will leverage, especially as Blackwell is released, like mixture of experts, the multi-token system, and mixed point floating precision. Those kinds of capabilities are built into really NVIDIA's GPUs.
Right.
And where DeepSeek has really set itself apart is by lowering costs. That is why the market is reacting the way it is. It's took less than 6 million, according to DeepSeek, to train a nearly 700 billion parameter model. This is significantly cheaper than what United States is spending to train their large language models. The market is worried we are overspending. I would argue that is the wrong read through. This will cause the United States and big tech companies to spend more.
All right, so before I get to that, what about the open source part of this, though? A lot of people saying that's the game changer as well.
Open source goes hand in hand with the idea that the whole point was always to lower costs for AI training and AI inference, which is that we need startups to participate. We need enterprise companies to participate. We don't want this technology to be locked behind the fortresses of big tech. And so this nod to open source and this nod to driving down costs was the ultimate goal of what AI development was meant to achieve.
So Elon Musk outward is saying that he thinks it's obvious that DeepSeek is using a lot more GPUs than they claim. Not 10,000, maybe 50,000. Also, Cantor sees this as a positive for NVIDIA. It sounds like you agree with this.
Absolutely. I bought NVIDIA this morning, and the reason is that China may be number one for 3 weeks or ultimately whatever it will be, but we are in an arms race and spending goes up in times of war, which is what your introduction was about. As stated, DeepSeek was trained on NVIDIA chips. And if you look even more deeply, a lot of the breakthrough is how GPUs communicate. How to get many GPUs to communicate like one GPU is really at the core of what your checklist is pointing out.
Right.
And there's many networking companies too that will benefit from this breakthrough.
So when you ask DeepSeek about President Xi, say, hey, criticize President Xi and criticize President Trump. Well, when it comes to Xi, it says, sorry, that's beyond my scope. And when it comes to Trump, there's a lot of criticism. And I think the reason I bring this up, it's number one on the Apple Store. Right now, we're talking about TikTok. The Supreme Court of the United States says, yes, sell it as a national security threat. Should there be any action taken against it? Should we stop it from even being available on Apple stores or any other U.S. consumer products until we know more about it?
Those are great questions. I think a lot of people are asking those questions now. And then, of course, access to our large language models. We've obviously restricted or attempted to restrict the hardware. I do foresee more restrictions coming after this announcement this week.
So you like NVIDIA still, you bought it on weakness. I'm looking at these AI agents also. This seems to be a new story that's emerging out of all of this. Salesforce is rocking. Is that another area or software in general?
I like hardware, Charles. I like hardware. It's the common denominator. Everything leads to that tech stack, and makes it much easier to choose the winner.
But this is not much ado of nothing, right? The battle is joined. I mean, was I somewhat correct in saying maybe this could be like the battle of the ironclads, that the war is shifted?
Every big tech company will be battling. Every mid-cap company will be battling. We have startups that will be battling. We clearly have other countries that will be battling. They will all need NVIDIA and NVIDIA's hardware stack. And when I say NVIDIA's hardware stack, I'm talking anywhere from 5 to 10 additional stocks that greatly benefit as NVIDIA increases the complexity of their systems. So it's a very large ecosystem.
Beth Kindig, we needed you especially today. Thank you so much.
All right, so you got some NVIDIA OGs saying that hardware is the underlying denominator behind making this AI revolution happen. And they continue to buy more NVIDIA. Dude, I have the Palantir sweatshirt on today just for Carp. I didn't even realize. I was like, all right, we are decked out with the Palantir gear. I really hope they don't delay the Carp thing because of the Trump press conference, dude. Like, that would kind of suck if they do that. But CNBC, as you can see right here, they are covering this Trump thing heavily. They might, I mean, I could see them delaying it. I mean, this happens all the time with guests inside of the studio. They have to delay things for breaking news. So it might happen, but if it does, then I guess we'll probably see Carp at around 11:30, 12. Probably not even 11:30, probably 12. I mean, it would, because we know Trump's going to talk for at least 20 minutes. So it'll take some time. Maybe Carp is at the Trump press conference. Probably not. Carp is probably in New York at CNBC headquarters, not at DC. But they're probably going to delay it. Is Meta giving back some of its gains? Meta is giving back all of its gains. Wow. 715 to 678. Talk about a reversal on Meta. NVIDIA barely holding 118 right here. Rocket Lab giving back all of its gains as well. And then Apple at 237. Okay, so let's do this question in the chat. After the month of January, which basically we are ending on, what percentage cash are you now in your portfolio? what percentage cash are you in my portfolio? I think I was 15%, or sorry, I was 30% at the start of January. Now I am much lower. I am, it's like 5% cash, dude. It's like, it went from 15 to 5, a little bit below 5. So I've heavily deployed in the month of January. And we'll see if that was a good idea or not going into the rest of the year. But we are hedged with covered calls. So regardless of any market volatility, we should be able to at least collect some premium from those and then rinse and repeat. I didn't sell calls on NVIDIA yet, though. I haven't sold calls on NVIDIA. That's another reason I want to get to 500 shares. I'm like, all right, at least I can sell 5 covered calls against this thing. And the premiums on NVIDIA are phenomenal. Now, obviously, the premiums have taken a hit over the past week because NVIDIA collapsed by 20%. But in general, dude, people pay crazy amounts of money for like a 180, 190 call before earnings when NVIDIA was at 142 or before the collapse. I mean, people were paying $1.90 for a 170 call, which is deeply out of the money. I mean, for NVIDIA to go from 140 to 170 would be a tremendous move. And people were still buying those calls. So the options market is very liquid for NVIDIA. But it's a question of, does this thing completely collapse below 100 or can it normalize at these levels? Okay, I see Samir said he has €5. We got some people at 7%, 15%, 5%, just under 4%. Peter's at 0%. Mobius is at 20%. Brianna's at 3%. Brian's at 0%. Irish is at 21%. I see a lot of I'm beneficial 2 to 3%. It looks like a lot of people did the same in January. They bought. Because a lot of you guys were closer to 20%, 25% at the beginning of January. I think I asked this question before CPI. And that's when I was at 30%. After CPI, I'm at like 3 to 4%. So it seems like some of you guys are kind of in the same boat here. Yeah, wow. I see a lot of less than 5% here. A lot of them. Oh, I feel this, Nick. 15%, but I have a big capital gain stacks. Dude, I'm getting ready to pay my capital gains. I was talking with Steve last night about it. Carp's still not live yet. It's going to be the most amount of money I paid in my life. It's going to be crazy, dude. Like, I literally have to sell my HUD options that expire in 2026 just to be able to have the cash to pay it. And I want to sell it at this point because I think I'm going to get 80 to 90% of the max value on the spread. So there's no point in waiting another 8 months to be able to close the position. But the fact of the matter is I'm closing one 6-figure profit trade to pay for the taxes on another 6-figure profit trade. Like, that's how crazy this is. You have to close a trade just to be able to pay the taxes on another trade. And then next year, I'm going to have to find the money to pay for the taxes on this 6-figure profit for the HUD options that I'm selling probably in April. So it is kind of insane how much the government takes. But it's also, it's a good problem to have. It's just, it hits you in the face real quick, bro. And it's a problem all investors have, especially after 2024, because a lot of you guys had a good year. And it's a privileged problem to have. Don't get me wrong. But my goodness, is it a problem, dude? My goodness, is it a problem? NVIDIA will pay your 2025 taxes. I hope so, bro. I hope buying the dip on NVIDIA ends up paying for the taxes. Next year, it's going to be multiples more of what I'm paying this year. Like, it's getting to the point where I'm like, what can I expense? Like, when I was talking to my accountant the other day, I was just like, I don't have expenses. Like, YouTube is not an expensive business. It's just me. It's and my computer, my stream. That's it. Like, this is not a cap. You talk about Capex. There's no Capex to this business. There's just emotional cyberbullying you have to deal with every single day by 3,000 people in the chat. But if you can handle that, there's no expenses. So it's like, it's like what do I write off, bro? I have no write-offs. I have nothing, bro. Maybe I'll have $5,000 of write-offs for 2025. Maybe, because I bought a new Mac for like $1,500. Otherwise, I don't have write-offs. I don't have it. Okay, let's go back to CNBC, get some of their Trump coverage. I think they're pushing back Carp, guys. I think they are pushing him back for this Trump stuff. So maybe it's going to take another 30 minutes to get Carp onto CNBC.
Nvidia down again, 4%. It's been on a losing streak since the DeepSeek revelations earlier this week. Microsoft down 6.5%. So sharper declines for some of these earnings losers. But I don't want it to mask the strength here of some of these rate sensitive groups like real estate and utilities, which are climbing strongly on the back of lower rates post-Fed. Financials having another strong day. And there are some earnings bright spots in the market as well. They're just not as heavily weighted. IBM, for instance, up 12.5%. Las Vegas Sands up 10.5%. Lam Research, Carl, up 7%. So the earnings winners having a very strong day, but it's those losers, the big ones like a Microsoft, that are weighing on the overall market.
Yeah, IBM at one point was adding a couple hundred points to the Dow. Only problem was Microsoft was taking off almost as many.
Exactly.
It's a big week for tech earnings. It has been, as you know, and tonight we will get Apple. The stock has underperformed most of the Mag 7 this year, down about 5%. Our Steve Kovacs and Cupertino.
They are definitely delaying Carp, bro. They're waiting for this Trump press conference, and then they'll probably go to him. But this might take another hour, folks. I mean, if they're talking about Apple right now, like they're doing this Apple segment because they know it's probably a short segment before they get to Trump. So it fills up some time. They obviously can't do Carp right now because that's probably going to be like a 15, 20-minute segment. And so it looks like they are prioritizing the Trump press conference over Carp here today. So I guess we will be continuing to wait. Right off the bell. Unfortunately, the bell is not as expensive. It's not a bell made out of gold. It is a $8 bell from Amazon. So it's hard to do that. Yeah, but see, even the expenses for meetups, like you guys are right, Airbnb, flights, all that stuff, it doesn't add up like crazy. Like, I mean, it's an expense, but compared to the income, it's not like one of those expenses, you know, it's not like a $80,000 expense that I'm looking for those types of expenses. And I don't have them. I don't have that. The best thing is the solo 401k, which you can write off a max of 70,000. So that's a good expense, I guess. But in terms of actual business expenses, there's not a ton. Welcome to the world of investing, first world problems. It's definitely a first world problem, bro. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining about it, but it's just one of those things, bro. Because like your portfolio's up a certain amount, and you know mentally in your head, this portfolio goes back down substantially April 15th because that money is leaving the portfolio. And it's just almost like, wow, like everything that it's up right now is not real because you know whatever you're up is plus more is going away in the next 3 months because Uncle Sam has to get his cut. So it is what it is. It is what it is. No taxes if all your investments are in a Roth IRA. Yeah, that's fair as well. It's just, dude, I could have had that life. I could have had it. I had 200 call options on Robinhood that I bought when it was $10. If I had waited until January this year to sell them in my Roth IRA, I would have $400,000. I spent $10,000 on the investment. Like, I think it was like $350. It was like $350. If I waited till the very last day, probably like around $350. And that's because the strike was $25. Robinhood went to freaking $40. Like, I could have been managing a $500,000 portfolio in my Roth IRA tax-free. And if you give me 300, I can definitely get, I would say, close to at least $5,000 a month from selling options. So that could compound very nicely. And I sold those HOOD options for a $5,000 profit. So I could have had a great portfolio to wheel tax-free. And it would have really set up retirement, bro. It would have, I mean, like to have $500,000 in your retirement account off of one trade. But that didn't happen. Okay, is Trump on? Let's see. Let's go to him. Let's get some coverage from Trump, and then we'll keep going from there.
Less capital intensive has your first.
Thank you very much. I speak to you this morning in an hour of anguish for our nation. Just before 9 p.m. last night, an American Airlines regional jet carrying 60 passengers and 4 crew collided with an Army Black Hawk helicopter carrying 3 military service members over the Potomac River in Washington, D.C., while on final approach to Reagan National Airport. Both aircraft crashed instantly and were immediately submerged into the icy waters of the Potomac. Real tragedy. The massive search and rescue mission was underway throughout the night, leveraging every asset at our disposal. And I have to say, the local, state, federal, military including the United States Coast Guard in particular. They've done a phenomenal job. So quick, so fast. It was mobilized immediately. The work is now shifted to a recovery mission. Sadly, there are no survivors. This was a dark and excruciating night in our nation's capital and in our nation's history, and a tragedy of terrible proportions. As one nation, we grieve for every precious soul that has been taken from us so suddenly. And we are a country of we are in mourning. This is really shaken a lot of people, including people, very sadly, from other nations who were on the flight. For the family members back in Wichita, Kansas, here in Washington, D.C., and throughout the United States and in Russia, we have a Russia contingent of very talented people. Unfortunately, were on that plane. Very, very, very sorry about that. Whose loved ones were aboard the passenger jet. We can only begin to imagine the agony that you're all feeling. Nothing worse. On behalf of the First Lady, myself, and 340 million Americans, our hearts are shattered alongside yours, and our prayers are with you now and in the days to come. We'll be working very, very diligently in the days to come. We're here for you to wipe away the tears and to offer you our devotion, our love, and our support. There's great support. In moments like this, the differences between Americans fade to nothing compared to the bonds of affection and loyalty that unite us all, both as Americans and even as nations. We are one family, and today we are all heartbroken. We're all searching for answers. That icy Potomac, it was a cold, cold night, cold water. We're all overcome with the grief for many who have so tragically perished, will no longer be with us. Together we take solace in the knowledge that their journey ended not in the cold waters of the Potomac, but in the warm embrace of a loving God. We do not know what led to this crash, but we have some very strong opinions and ideas, and I think we'll probably state those opinions now. Because over the years I've watched as things like this happen, and they say, well, we're always investigating, and then the investigation 3 years later, they announce it. We think we have some pretty good ideas. But we'll find out how this disaster occurred, and we'll ensure that nothing like this ever happens again. The FAA and the NTSB and the U.S. military will be carrying out a systematic and comprehensive investigation. Our new Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, his second day on the job when that happened. It's a rough one. We'll be working tirelessly. He's a great gentleman. The whole group these are great people, and they are working tirelessly to figure out exactly what happened. We will state certain opinions, however. I'm also immediately appointing an acting commissioner to the FAA, Christopher Rocheleau, a 22-year veteran of the agency, highly respected. Christopher, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We must have only the highest standards for those who work in our aviation system. I changed the Obama standards from very mediocre at best to extraordinary. You remember that. Only the highest aptitude, they have to be the highest intellect and psychologically superior people were allowed to qualify for air traffic controllers. That was not so prior to getting there. When I arrived in 2016, I made that change very early on because I always felt this was a job that, and other jobs too, but this was a job that had to be superior intelligence. And we didn't really have that, and we had it. And then when I left office and Biden took over, he changed them back to lower than ever before. I put safety first. Obama, Biden, and the Democrats put policy first. And they put politics at a level that nobody's ever seen, because this was the lowest level. Their policy was horrible, and their politics was even worse. So as you know, last week, long before the crash, I signed an executive order restoring our highest standards for air traffic controllers and other important jobs throughout the country. So it was very interesting. About a week ago, almost upon entering office, I signed something last week that was an executive order, very powerful, on restoring the highest standards of air traffic controllers and others, by the way. Then my administration will set the highest possible bar for aviation safety. We have to have our smartest people. It doesn't matter what they look like, how they speak, who they are. It matters intellect, talent, the word talent. They have to be talented, naturally talented geniuses. You can't have regular people doing that job. They won't be able to do it. But we'll restore faith in American air travel. I'll have more to say about that. I do want to point out that various articles that appeared prior to my entering office, and here's one. The FAA's diversity push includes focus on hiring people with severe intellectual and psychiatric disabilities. That is amazing. And then it says FAA says people with severe disabilities are most underrepresented segment of the workforce, and they want them in, and they want them, they can be air traffic controllers. I don't think so. This was in January 14th, so that was a week before I entered office. They put a big push to put diversity into the FAA's program. Then another article, the Federal Aviation Administration, this was before I got to office, recently, second term. The FAA is actively recruiting workers who suffer severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric problems, and other mental and physical conditions under a diversity and inclusion hiring initiative spelled out on the agency's website. Can you imagine? These are people that are, I mean, actually, their lives are shortened because of the stress that they have. Brilliant people have to be in those positions, and their lives are actually shortened, very substantially shortened, because of the stress, where you have many, many planes coming into one target, and you need a very special talent and a very special genius to be able to do it. Targeted disabilities are those disabilities that the federal government, as a matter of policy, has identified for special emphasis in recruitment and hiring. The FAA's website states they include hearing, vision, missing extremities, partial paralysis, complete paralysis, epilepsy, severe intellectual disability, psychiatric disability, and dwarfism all qualify for the position of a controller of airplanes pouring into our country, pouring into a little spot, a little dot on the map, a little runway. The initiative is part of the FAA's diversity and inclusion hiring plan. Think of that. The initiative is part of the FAA's diversity and inclusion hiring plan, which says diversity is integral to achieving FAA's mission of ensuring safe and efficient travel. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's just the opposite. The FAA website shows that the agency's guidance on diversity hiring were last updated on March 23rd of 22. They wanted to make it even more so. And then I came in, and I assume maybe this is the reason. The FAA, which is overseen by Secretary Pete Buttigieg, a real winner. That guy's a real winner. Do you know how badly everything's run since he's run this Department of Transportation? He's a disaster. He was a disaster as a mayor. He ran his city into the ground, and he's a disaster now. He's just got a good line of bullshit. The Department of Transportation is government agency charged with regulating civil aviation. Well, he runs it, 45,000 people, and he's run it right into the ground with his diversity. So I had to say that it's terrible. Then it's a group within the FAA, another story, determined that the workforce was too white, that they had concerted efforts to get the administration to change that and to change it immediately. This was in the Obama administration just prior to my getting there. And we took care of African Americans, Hispanic Americans. We took care of everybody at levels that nobody's ever seen before. It's one of the reasons I won. But they actually came out with a directive, too white. And we want the people that are competent. But now we mourn and we pray, and would like to ask all Americans to join me in a moment of silence as we ask God to watch over those who have lost their lives and bring comfort to the loved ones. And I just want to say God bless everyone in this room. This has been a terrible, very short period of time. We'll get to the bottom of it. So we all saw the same thing. We've seen it many times. I've had the honor of hearing tapes. Tapes are scary, very scary tapes. You had a airliner coming in, American Airlines. He was doing everything right. He was on track. He was the same track as everybody else. They came in. It's probably the same track as they've had for 25 years or more. He's coming in the path. And for some reason, he had a helicopter that was at the same height, obviously when they hit, but pretty much the same height, and going at an angle that was unbelievably bad. When the air traffic controller said, do you see, he was talking about, do you see him? But there was very little time left when that was stated. And then also he said, follow him in. And then almost immediately after that, seconds after that, there was the crash that took place. Well, you follow him in, that means like everything's fine, follow him in. You had a pilot problem from the standpoint of the helicopter. I mean, because it was visual. It was a very clear night. It was cold, but clear, and clear as you could be. The American Airlines plane had lights blazing. They had all of their landing lights on. I could see it from the Kennedy Center tape. We had a tape up on the Kennedy Center. That seems to be the primary. That's why I'm sure we'll see other tapes, because it's such an area where there are a lot of cameras looking up into the air, into space. So we'll probably see many other shots of it before too much time goes by. But we had a situation where you had a helicopter that had the ability to stop. I have helicopters. You can stop a helicopter very quickly. It had the ability to go up or down. It had the ability to turn. And the turn it made was not the correct turn, obviously. It did somewhat the opposite of what it was told. We don't know that that would have been the difference, because the timing was so tight. It was so little. There was so little time to think. But what you did have is you had vision. The helicopter had vision of the plane, because you had vision of it all the way, perfect vision of it all the way from at Kennedy Center, where the tape was taken. And for some reason, there weren't adjustments made. Again, you could have slowed down the helicopter substantially. You could have stopped the helicopter. You could have gone up. You could have gone down. You could have gone straight up, straight down. You could have turned. You could have done a million different maneuvers. For some reason, it just kept going, and then made a slight turn at the very end. And by that time, it was too late. They shouldn't have been at the same height, because if it wasn't the same height, you could have gone under it or over it, and nobody realized, or they didn't say that it's at the same height. At the same height, it still wouldn't have been great, but you would have missed it by quite a bit. Could have been 1,000 feet higher. It could have been 200 feet lower, but it was exactly at the same height, and somebody should have been able to point that out. So all of this is going to be studied, but it just seems to me, from a couple of words that I like to use, the words common sense, some really bad things happened, and some things happened that shouldn't have happened. So you had a helicopter going in an identical direction. You had a helicopter that was at the exact same height as somebody going in essentially the opposite direction. You had a plane that was following a track, which is a track that every other plane followed. And I don't imagine, I know I've heard today that they might have been following the preceding plane, which was pretty close, but not that close, the preceding plane. But you wouldn't have even been able to see that because of the direction that the helicopter was coming in at. So you had a confluence of bad decisions that were made. And you have people that lost their lives, violently lost their lives. We're going to take a few questions. I'd like to ask our new Secretary of Transportation to say a few words. Sean Duffy, great gentleman, just started. It's not your fault, and I know you agree with me very strongly on intellect and even psychological well-being of the air traffic control. It's such an important position, and I think I can't emphasize stronger. I changed it when I first ran in 2016. I changed it. We had the highest standard that you could have, and then they changed it back. That was Biden, to a standard I read it to you. That was from one of your papers. One of the people in this room actually wrote that. And then I changed it back a few days ago. And unfortunately, that was, we'll see. We don't know that necessarily it's even the controller's fault. But one thing we do know, there was a lot of vision, and people should have been able to see that, you know, at what point do you stop? At what point do you say, wow, that plane's getting a little bit close? So this is a tragedy that should not have happened. Please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I would just note the president's leadership has been remarkable during this crisis. We've had a whole of government response, local, state, federal. And when you see that kind of cooperation, it begins with the leadership in this body. So thank you for that, Mr. President. You make our jobs a lot easier. You made an important point that when we deal with safety, we can only accept the best and the brightest in positions of safety that impact the lives of our loved ones, our family members. And I think you make a really important point on that, Mr. President. That is the motto of your presidency, the best and the brightest, the most intelligent coming into these spaces. I want to take a moment and extend my condolences to the families of the loved ones. We commit to them that we are going to get to the bottom of this investigation, not in 3 years, not in 4 years, but as quickly as possible with the NTSB, who is here today, as well as the FAA. What happened yesterday shouldn't have happened. It should not have happened. And when Americans take off in airplanes, they should expect to land at their destination. That didn't happen yesterday. That's not acceptable. And so we will not accept excuses. We will not accept passing the buck. We are going to take responsibility at the Department of Transportation and the FAA to make sure we have the reforms that have been dictated by President Trump in place to make sure that these mistakes do not happen again. And again, I want to thank you for your leadership, Mr. President, and I appreciate the confidence you placed in me. Thank you.
Pete, would you like to say something?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Again, I want to echo what the Transportation Secretary said about your leadership. From the moment we found out about this, we were in contact with the White House trying to determine exactly what happened. I would echo it as well. No excuses. We're going to get to the bottom of this. We first and foremost from the Defense Department want to pass our condolences to the 64 souls and their families that were affected by this. Never should happen. And certainly the 3 service members, the 3 soldiers, young captain, staff sergeant, and CW2, Chief Warrant Officer, on a routine annual retraining of night flights on a standard corridor for a continuity of government mission. The military does dangerous things. It does routine things on the regular basis. Tragically, last night, a mistake was made. I think the president is right. There was some sort of an elevation issue that we have immediately begun investigating at the DOD and Army level. Army CID is on the ground investigating. Top tier aviation assets inside the DOD are investigating, sir, to get to the bottom of it so that it does not happen again, because it's absolutely unacceptable. But I want to echo what the Transportation Secretary and you, Mr. President, said, because it pertains to the DOD as well. We will have the best and brightest in every position possible. As you said in your inaugural, it is colorblind and merit-based. The best leaders possible, whether it's flying Black Hawks and flying airplanes, leading platoons, or in government. The era of DEI is gone at the Defense Department, and we need the best and brightest, whether it's in our air traffic control, or whether it's in our generals, or whether it's throughout government. So thank you for your leadership and courage on that, sir, and we'll stand by you on it. Thank you.
JD, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership. I just want to reemphasize something the president said, and you've heard from the Secretary of Transportation and of Defense. There really was a whole of government response. We were all on the phone. We were all communicating yesterday, trying to get to the bottom of this immediately, but also try to communicate with the American people about what happened. Something the president said that I think bears reemphasizing, which is that when you don't have the best standards in who you're hiring, it means on the one hand, you're not getting the best people in government, but on the other hand, it puts stresses on the people who are already there. And I think that is a core part of what President Trump is going to bring and has already brought to Washington, D.C. is we want to hire the best people because we want the best people at air traffic control. And we want to make sure we have enough people at air traffic control who are actually competent to do the job. If you go back to just some of the headlines over the past 10 years, you have many hundreds of people suing the government because they would like to be air traffic controllers, but they were turned away because of the color of their skin. That policy ends under Donald Trump's leadership because safety is the first priority of our aviation industry. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, on DEI and the claims that you've made, are you saying this crash was somehow caused and the result of diversity hiring? And what evidence have you seen to support these claims?
It just could have been. We have a high standard. We've had a much higher standard than anybody else. And there are things where you have to go by brain power. You have to go by psychological quality. And psychological quality is a very important element of it. These are various very powerful tests that we put to use, and they were terminated by Biden. And Biden went by a standard that's the exact opposite. So we don't know, but we do know that you had two planes at the same level. You had a helicopter and a plane. That shouldn't have happened. And we'll see. We're going to look into that, and we're going to see. But certainly for an air traffic controller, we want the brightest, the smartest, the sharpest. We want somebody that's psychologically superior. And that's what we're going to have. Yeah. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Mr. President, you mentioned at the top of the briefing that there were several Russian nationals on the flight.
Yes.
Will the U.S. government be willing to facilitate the transfer of their remains, considering the fact there is no direct air travel between the two countries?
We've already been in contact with Russia, and the answer is yes, we will facilitate. Yes. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. The situation in the Democratic Republic of the Congo is getting worse, even though President John Lorenzo has been mediating the conflict between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo because he wants to bring peace and stability. The situation is really bad right now. I want to hear from Ms. President if you have any plan in the future to bring peace in the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
You're asking me a question about Rwanda, and it is a very serious problem. I agree, but I don't think it's appropriate right now to talk about it, but it is a very serious problem.
Do you even yet know the names of the 67 people who were killed? And you are blaming Democrats and DEI policies and air traffic control and seemingly the member of the U.S. military who was flying that Black Hawk helicopter. Don't you think you're getting ahead of the investigation right now?
No, I don't think so at all. I don't think with the names of the people, you mean the names of the people that are on the plane? You think that's going to make a difference?
Does it come for their families?
They are a group of people that have lost their lives. If you want a list of the names, we can give you that. We'll be giving that very soon. We're in coordination with American Airlines. We're in coordination very strongly, obviously, with the military. But I think that's not a very smart question. I'm surprised coming from you. Please.
Thank you, President Trump. Thank you for being here. Based on your analysis so far, do you have a sense of who is at fault? If it was the plane, the helicopter, air traffic control, and can you assure people that it is safe to fly in and out of D.C.?
Well, I've given you the analysis, and the analysis was based on vision. You had a lot of people that saw what was happening. You had some people that knew what was happening. There was some warnings, but the warnings were given very, very late. You know, those warnings were given very late. It was almost as they were given a few seconds later, there was the crash. It should have been brought up earlier. But the people in the helicopter should have seen where they were going. I can't imagine people with 20/20 vision not seeing what's happening up there. Again, they shouldn't have been at the same height. You're going in reverse directions or sideway directions. Obviously, you want to be at different heights. I see it all the time when I'm flying. You have planes going in the opposite. They're always lower, we're higher, so if somehow there's a screw up, there's not going to be a tragedy. It'll be close, but there's never going to be a tragedy if you're at a different elevation. For whatever reason, they were at the same elevation. And also, from the American Airlines Center, he's along the track that every plane is along. You say, what was a helicopter doing in that track? It's very sad. But visually, somebody should have been able to see and taken that helicopter out of play, and they should have been at a different height.
Thank you, sir. You mentioned the Russians that were on board that plane. What other nationalities were on board that passenger?
There were a couple of others. We're going to be announcing it in about an hour. We have some very specific information. We're calling the countries. We've spoken to most of them, but there were some other countries represented.
Spoken to President Putin?
I have not, no. Not about this.
On your executive order, you've already issued an executive order you say will restore aviation safety.
Right.
This crash happened after that. Was the executive order successful, and what more needs to change to keep people safe?
Well, we issued it 3 days ago, and we're in the process of making those changes. This is something that should have been done a long time ago. Actually, my original order should have never been changed, and I think maybe you wouldn't have had this problem. Maybe. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Thank you. We see like everyday life that very often those diversity hires cause sometimes issues, as you just mentioned. So what plan do you have? Are we going to see some fire? Are you going to fire some of those diversity hires in the federal government? What plan do you have?
I would say the answer is yes. If we find that people aren't mentally competent, you see the language. The language is put out by them. And if you see that, I'm not going to bore you by reading it again, but these are not people that should be doing this particular job. They'd be very good for certain jobs, but not people that should be doing this particular job.
Mr. President, you have today blamed the diversity elements, but then told us that you weren't sure that the controllers made any mistake. You then said perhaps the helicopter pilots were the ones who made the mistake.
It's all under investigation.
I understand that. That's why I'm trying to figure out how you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash.
Because I have common sense, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't. We want brilliant people doing this. This is a major chess game at the highest level. When you have 60 planes coming in during a short period of time, and they're all coming in different directions, and you're dealing with very high-level computer work and very complex computers. And one of the other things I will tell you is that the systems that were built, I was going to rebuild the entire system, and then we had an election that didn't turn out the way it should have. But they didn't build the systems properly. They spent a lot of money renovating a system, spending much more money than they would have spent if they bought a new system for air traffic controllers, meaning the computerized systems. There are certain companies that do a very good job. They didn't use those companies. They used companies that should not have been doing it. No, I think it's very important to understand that for some jobs, and not only this, but air traffic controllers, they have to be at the highest level of genius. Okay.
I want to ask you about the ice skaters in a moment because the U.S. ice skating community was affected. But first, if I can, the cited FAA text that you read is real. But the implication that this policy is new or that it stems from efforts that began under President Biden or the Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg is demonstrably false. It's been on the FAA's website.
That, you?
No, it's on the website, the FAA's website. It was there in 2013. It was there for the entirety.
What I read.
It was there for the entirety of your administration too. So my question is, why didn't you change the policy during your first administration?
I did change it. I changed the Obama policy, and we had a very good policy. And then Biden came in and he changed it. And then when I came in 3 days ago, I signed a new order, bringing it to the highest level of intelligence. Okay.
It was on the website.
Please. Quiet.
Welcome back to the. I'm sorry. You mentioned that a vision was probably the problem that was at issue in this crash. There's been some reports that one of the pilots in the helicopter may have been using night vision equipment. Was there any?
I heard
indication?
that. We don't know. We're going to know that pretty soon. it may change your view plan if you do have the night vision. So it's very possible that could have happened. That would be maybe a reason why you wouldn't actually see as well as on a clear night. You can see sometimes better without it. I have a couple of more.
Mr. President, is it helpful to have your Secretary of Transportation confirmed, and does this intensify your interest in getting other nominees confirmed quickly?
Go to what?
Is it helpful to have your Secretary of Transportation confirmed, and does this intensify your interest in getting other nominees confirmed quickly as well?
Well, sure. We want fast confirmations. And the Democrats, as you know, are doing everything they can to delay them. They've taken too long. We're struggling to get very good people that everybody knows are going to be confirmed, but we're struggling to get them out faster. We want them out faster. It's a good question, actually. We've been pushing Sean. Everyone knows Sean for a long time. He got many, many Democrat votes, but they want to take as long as they can. They ask questions like some of the questions that Peter would ask that were totally irrelevant and not very good questions, but they want to just keep it going. They want to keep it going as long as possible. I was very honored, actually, that you got so many Democrat votes. That was really good. That was really good.
When I try to meet with the families, and second question, is it your impression that military training was done during that time?
The what?
The training that the helicopter was involved in. Is it anything you can tell us about
You
that?
don't know. These are the things that will come up with the investigation. You don't know, but the helicopter obviously was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and a tragedy occurred. Please.
I've got a question about the.
No, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. You've been critical of the current regulations and you've called for big reforms at FAA. I'm curious, sir,
I made the reforms, actually.
What is your message?
3 days ago, I made them.
Yes, sir. What is your message then to the American public in the weeks and months ahead? Should they feel hesitant to fly? And if you could clarify perhaps something that the Defense Secretary said when he said that this helicopter was on a continuity of government mission?
I don't know what that refers to, but they were practicing. They do that. They call it practicing, and they were, and that's something that should be done. It's only continuity in the sense that we want to have very good people, and that has to be in continuity, and that's what they refer to. But it was basically practice, and it was a practice that worked out very, very badly. Okay.
On his question, the first question, should people be hesitant to fly right now?
No, not at all. I've not hesitate to fly. This is something that it's been many years that something like this has happened. And the collision is just something that we don't expect ever to happen again. We are going to have the highest level people. We've already hired some of the people that you've already hired for that position long before we knew about this. I mean, long before. From the time I came in, we started going out and getting the best people because I said it's not appropriate what they're doing. I think it's a tremendous mistake. You know, they like to do things and they like to take them too far. And this is sometimes what ends up happening. Now, with that, I'm not blaming the controller. I'm saying there are things that you could question, like the height of the helicopter and the height of the plane being at the same level and going in opposite directions. It's not a positive. But no, we're already hiring people. No, flying is very safe. We have the safest flying anywhere in the world, and we'll keep it that way. Thank you all very much. Thank you very much.
That is the president. A highly politically charged update to the crash of American Eagle 5342, suggesting that perhaps Eamon Javers, it was diversity hiring standards of prior administrations that was the cause of this crash. Not much in the way of specifics. We did get the defense secretary saying there was, quote, some sort of an elevation issue. And the president saying that we don't know that it was necessarily the air traffic controller's fault. But it's clear that they are not hesitant to take a disaster of any kind, wildfires, hurricanes, and envelop it in a political conversation.
Carl, that's right. I don't think that we've seen a president of the United States respond to a national disaster like we just saw before. The president beginning with a moment of silence for the victims, the president opening up with a note of empathy for those who lost their lives, and then moving very quickly to political blame, blaming Democrats, blaming the previous Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, engaging in anger, insults, foul language, and then bringing race into this argument and making this crash scene here that we're looking at a focal point of a national debate about race and diversity, and explaining without evidence that diversity was somehow responsible for what happened here last.
All right, so that is the Trump press conference. At this point, dude, I'm not saying anything about this because you guys in the chat are very politically charged on either side, and sometimes a wise man never said anything. Sometimes a wise man said nothing at all. So I'm not giving my take on this. Sometimes, you know what? You don't got to comment on everything. This is politically charged from both sides. I'm not saying anything. And we're moving on to stocks. Now, why did I cover that? Because that's the biggest news story of the day. And also, we were supposed to watch CARP. That got delayed because of the Trump press conference. So it is what it is. Hopefully, CARP gets on soon. I imagine it's probably going to be another 30 minutes. But the reason we covered it is because every single business channel is covering that. And also, it's the president of the United States. We want to see what he had to say. He said what he had to say, and you can have your own opinion if you liked it or if you hated it. I am keeping my opinion to myself. But Robinhood is not stopping on the gains. 53.45, up 4.5% on the day. This thing is not stopping. I mean, like, I guess I should have bought more Robinhood at the beginning of the year at freaking 38 and called it a year. Didn't need to diversify into anything because this thing, goodness gracious, bro. Bitcoin's not even moving. Bitcoin's not even moving. 53.50, up 5%. It's not like Bitcoin's running like crazy. Bitcoin's at 105.6, which is good, but it was at 106 in the morning. So Bitcoin's actually down. Tesla as well, back to 400, up 3%, which is not bad. And XYZ Block Square is up 4.2%. I have $47 sold puts on Hood that are now up 51% in 3 days, dude. I mean, this is incredible. This stock has just been amazing to wheel. I also have $50 puts on Hood I sold yesterday, I think when it was at 49. So I sold at the money puts. I sold 5 of those. Those are up 31% in a day. So obviously Hood is doing very well, and that's what's allowing these puts to continue to gain value. But overall, you know, Robinhood, the stock is just not slowing down. 53.47. You thought 51 or 52 would be amazing, but 53 today, incredible. Let me check resistance real quick for 54. I will transition to CARP whenever he's live. I imagine CARP was listening to that press conference as well for the past 30 minutes at the New York headquarters at CNBC. We don't have an update on when CARP will be live. Halftime report is starting right now on CNBC. I wonder when they're going to show him, because eventually they're going to have to do the interview. I don't think they pre-recorded it. I'm pretty sure it's live, so hopefully it happens soon. 54 resistance on Hoodie is 8,000 shares. Honestly, if you wanted to get to 54, if we get the volume, 8,000 shares is nothing. It could happen. It could happen today. So closing above 53 would be incredible. Closing above 53.50 would be incredible. Just got to see how that momentum continues later throughout the day. Where is Palantir stock? Palantir is at 80.40. Palantir is also at 80.40. Palantir is also at 80.40 right now. Not bad, not bad at all. If you're in Hood, congratulations. It's been a hell of a journey this year, and obviously, or last year, and already continuing that journey going into this year. And look, again, I still don't think it's expensive, dude. I'm not going to buy it today at 53, but I probably will get ready to buy it in the mid 50s going into 60, because I think this thing's going higher and the growth and momentum is there to get it there. And I learned my mistake with Palantir, not buying into strength. I'm happy to buy into strength here, but also that's why selling at the money puts works, right? If you were in part of that options class, when you sell a put on a stock you're willing to own, if it goes back to 47, I would be okay buying another 1,000 shares at 47 because I sold 10 puts. You know, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. And I got paid a nice $3, $4 premium. So my cost basis would actually be 43, 42 bucks. So you don't have to buy the stock. If you think, you know, there might be a retracement or you just don't want to flat out buy it, you can get paid to wait, which is the beauty of selling puts. Nubank's also exploding. Shout out to anyone who got into Nubank. 1352. That's up 7% on the day. Incredible for Nubank. This one benefiting really well. I mean, it was at $10 the other day. I know Chris and Sam, who's been on this channel before, Chris as well, obviously have been bullish on this name, Brazilian Latin American bank that got hit with some bad headlines in Brazil, some currency headwinds. Looks like that's reversing as the dollar comes down a bit. Now up 8% on Nubank. SMCI is up 1.4%. Google's up 2.3%. Meta's at 690, down from 700. Nvidia's trying to rehold 120 again, but really is stuck between 119 and 120, down 3% on the day. Rocket Lab as well gave back all of its gains, down 2%. Apple went red. UPS still one of the worst days it's had in history. Microsoft down 6%. Microsoft not catching any bid at all. And Tesla right here below 400. At 399. We got Tanner saying, cheers, Amit. Thanks for getting me into Hood. Well, Tanner, first of all, thank you for being part of Hood Weekly and being part of the community. Also, has been big on Nubank since like $3. You guys have followed his channel. So Tanner's been covering that stock for a very long time. I believe he still has a pretty decent position in it. And that one is printing today. So amazing, amazing stuff. We're seeing a lot of these companies get some more momentum here today. All right, let's see if I can try to get an update on CARP and when this is going to start. We got Josh Brown on CNBC. Let's get a little bit of coverage from him. Maybe they'll say when CARP's going live, and I'll try to get some details on when this might happen.
And now Apple is to those mega cap earnings last night. Looking ahead to the one that looms large this evening, we will begin with Microsoft, which is the big loser at this moment because it's falling on its cloud guidance. By now, you know the story. You've seen the stock move. What you haven't heard from is Jim Lebenthal, who owns that stock and who, like all of you, is thinking about what this now means for the
myself, who's been underweight the stock at less than half of what the S&P 500 weighting is, it now becomes quite tempting. We know we've talked for quite some time, Scott, on the program about how Microsoft has underperformed for quite some time. We also talk quite often on this show that valuation is not a catalyst, but in the end, valuation does matter. It's just a question of when. It was simply too expensive in the mid-30s. Now we're looking at a forward multiple. It's in the high 20s, and I will wait for this stock to stop going down, but then I will add to it. This is still Microsoft. It's going to be a huge part of any passive ETF flows. And that's it. So one quarter disappointed. This does not mean that there's something fatally wrong with Microsoft. Far from it.
You know, guys, I'm going to make a turn for just a moment because I like to keep you up to date on things that are moving right now. And we're going to have more reporting on this. But let's show shares of Juniper Networks if we.
There has been no reporting on CARP. I will try to hit up some people I know that can maybe get me some details, but nothing that we've seen on when CARP is going to go live. At this point, I don't know. I think it'll happen in this hour, and I'll be live to try to cover it, but no update formally yet on when CARP goes live.
We could, who that they were going to buy 14 billion in this stock for a while, and I think at this point you were right, and I think we're looking probably to get back into the names.
Okay, so we'll watch it. Obviously, what are you thinking about, Josh? As you see a stock down near 6%. I mean, if there was a question about, look, there's a lot of questions about Apple. We'll get to that. But if there's a question about one of the hyperscalers directly in the AI game, maybe this was the one that had the most to live up to, given DeepSeek and the questions about Microsoft's already, sort of changing relationship as it relates to OpenAI.
Yeah, look, I think that there was a moment where we all collectively kind of agreed, oh, wow, Microsoft made this early equity investment in OpenAI. They kind of wrapped up Sam Altman, and they are in the driver's seat for this technological revolution. And as a result, the stock galloped ahead, got a big valuation. And then all of the plans to spend and spend and spend like there's no tomorrow started to ultimately weigh on this company. And I've pointed this out before. If we're worried about the AI driven market advance, then this would be ground zero. When does Microsoft decide it's time to spend a little bit less? We didn't get that this time, but what we did get was slightly less good guidance going forward on the Azure business. And as a result, we have the worst individual trading day for Microsoft since 2022. I think it's notable. I think the company's okay. Stock price might not be okay. It's been consolidating since April of last year. Now it's at the lower end of that consolidation range. And you really don't want to see it break below meaningfully, because what that would imply is not that there's some fundamental issue with the company, but it would imply a downward re-rating. and we're no longer excited about the AI prospects here as a shareholder base. Now we're more concerned at what the cost is going to be and where is the ROI as a result. So forward revenue outlook guidance cuts are almost always negative in the short term. I don't think that I would be playing the stock for a quick bounce, but I think longer term it'll be okay. So if you're like a trader, I think it's off your list right now. If you're a long-term investor and you don't own it, it should be on your list. And that's the different perspectives that I think are worth having after what we've just heard.
You know, we wondered what the Capex fallout might be, Liz, as it relates to DeepSeek. The CFO of Microsoft said Capex would be similar for the next 2 quarters. It's probably too soon for them to kind of reassess how much the goalposts might have moved, how much the game may have changed, but at least it's not changing in terms of the spend right now.
Yeah, well, CapEx is going to come under scrutiny, I think, for the entirety of the year, and it has been since the middle of last year for all of these AI names, and Microsoft is obviously not immune to that. To Jim's point earlier, the flows into passive ETFs, and I want to be clear, software was one of my calls and still is one of my calls for 2025. So if you look at a software ETF, ticker IGV, Microsoft is a top holding in that ETF, so it's pulled down today. I still believe software will be a beneficiary of this, but there's obviously going to be some bumps in the road and sort of this handoff between software companies that could be the next phase beneficiary and the ones that are benefiting perhaps today, semiconductors and that theme. So this CapEx question continues to be the thing that investors will queue on. And the other piece that I want to mention about this particular earnings season, companies are getting punished a lot more than usual for missing even on some of those just little line item details. And I think that will continue as well. So these expectations are high.
I'm glad you brought up the IGV. And we could show ServiceNow, we can show Snowflake, we can show Salesforce today, because if you want to see where some of the more significant losses are, it is related to software. Cloud, ServiceNow down almost 12%, Snowflake's down almost 3%. You see Salesforce as well. It takes me to Oracle, because you're trimming some. As you suggest, there are now perceivable threats. Yeah. That's interesting because Larry Ellison was recently.
All right. So, yeah, no update on CARP yet, guys. Maybe they pre-recorded it, and so they can show it whenever they want. Robinhood's still holding about 53. But I don't know. At this point, I don't know. I don't know. We're going to have to see. It might go live this hour. It might go live tomorrow. Like, I would imagine they don't delay it until tomorrow. But we should be seeing it hopefully soon. Meta just confirmed they have a new data center, and it's open in Arizona. Wow. So average on NVIDIA is 126, for those that are asking. Arizona, I know he wants to build one in Texas as well. But look at that. They're calling it Mesa. There you go. Or is Mesa is Mesa a place in Arizona? Is that a city in Arizona? Mesa, Arizona. Oh, it is. Oh, I'm stupid. I said they're calling it Mesa. I thought like that was a play on Meta, but never mind. That was bad. Anyway, it's called Mesa. Of course, it's called Mesa. Why wouldn't it be called Mesa? Because when I decide to say a 4-letter word that should be relatively easy to say, Mesa. Of course, it's Mesa. Why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't it be Mesa? Why not? Mesa. Goodness freaking gracious, dude. I don't understand how I talk for a living and I can't speak. I don't get it. I don't understand it. We're not doing that in an Indian accent, bro. We're not. You guys clowned me for that yesterday. One of my friends watched it. He was like, dude, you suck at an Indian accent. I was like, I know. I'm bad. But you got Zucks spending that beautiful CapEx money expanding to Mesa, Arizona. I've never been to Arizona, by the way. I gotta get to Phoenix one day. It's a beautiful, beautiful city. I want to get there one day. But Meta right here at 690, Robinhood at 53, Palantir 80.33, and the Nubank up 7.3%. Currently still up on the day. I said Mesa, bro. You can't blame me though. Is Mesa? Can you like really blame me for Mesa? Like if someone saw that word for the first time, we'd be like, oh, that person doesn't know how to talk if they said Mesa over Mesa. Like it looks like a Mesa, and we've been saying Meta so much the whole day, so naturally it's like, okay, Mesa. What is stupid though is I thought they were calling it Mesa. That was dumb. I agree. That was dumb. It's a geological term. Okay, I didn't know that. Michelle says, I wonder how often you were in a debate misspelling words and no one corrected you. Dude, it was probably often. But see, you know how I made that joke yesterday? Because when it was so funny because yesterday on the Tesla stream, Neil came on the stream, Couch Investor. And so I'm like super high energy, yelling, talking about earnings, yada, yada. And then Neil joins and I'm like, all right, Neil, what are you expecting? And then it's just like so chill, so mellow, so calm. Everyone's like, is his mic even up? Because you're so used to me blabbering. And Neil's an amazing content creator. I love Neil, but he's not as high energy, right? That's just not his style. Some people are super high energy, some people aren't. So it was a weird dichotomy there. And I could tell that people were just like, oh, what is this? What's going on here? So if I stopped yelling and I stopped mispronouncing words, I don't know how this show would go. But when I debated, I think people ignored my misspelling and my mispronunciations because I was just so loud. Like that was the one big comment I got from a lot of my peers on the debate circuit, which is that I'm a loud guy. I was a very loud guy. And sometimes you can be loud and like have a bad argument and you just sound stupid. Like when you're loud and wrong, you just look bad. And I've definitely been loud and wrong before, probably on the stream and definitely in debate rounds. But as I got better in debate, I ended up being loud and right more than being loud and wrong. And when you're loud and right, you get to win a lot of debate rounds. So you can overlook the mispronunciations if you can get your point across. Neil is Couch Investor. Neil is Couch Investor, for those that don't know him. He has a great YouTube channel. I love his videos. He really puts a lot of work and data into his stock analysis. I'll link it right here for those that want to check him out. And he's been early Tesla and Meta. So yesterday was a great day for him to go deeper into this stuff. Yes, Carp is speaking today, but we have no clue when. I hit up my Palantir Connect. They said that they're trying to figure it out. They said it might be pre-recorded, but they have no idea when it's officially coming out. My Palantir Connect, by the way, is Iliano, for those that are confused. It's either Iliano or Chad whenever I say my Palantir Connect. But Iliano works very intimately with Carp and a lot of this media stuff. So I figured he would be the one to know, if anybody. And even he has no idea when it's coming out. Oh, shout out to Davis, bro. Davis, you're in Nubank as well. I know you loaded up on Nubank, so shout out to you, up 7.3%. Great day for everyone who's in the news of the world. Dude got bodied by a Danish curler. Yeah, for those that don't know, I lost the Slovenia World Championships in 2016 to Denmark. I've always had a really bad space in my heart for Denmark. Like, I don't like Denmark. I love the Danish people, but I don't like that they beat the United States on a 3-2 decision in Slovenia back in 2016. I'm not over it yet. I'm not over it. I'm still not over it, dude. They didn't deserve to win. They did not deserve to win that round. They didn't. They just didn't, dude. I mean, I went back to the hotel. Everyone was saying, dude, you guys got screwed. I was like, it is what it is, bro. It is what it is. That's the hard part about debate too. It's subjective, right? It's not 2 + 2 is 4. It's like you got to get 3 out of the 5 judges to agree with you, and 3 out of the 5 judges just might not agree with you. They have their own subjective beliefs on the debate round, and you can't objectively prove you won, and then you might end up losing the debate. And they stole Greenland. Oh my God, dude. Dude, there was a report yesterday that Trump was talking with some of the Danish officials, and they were like a little disturbed by the fact that he was dead serious about Greenland. Like, he wasn't joking. They thought he was using it as like this bargaining thing, and they didn't take him seriously. But they got on the phone with him and he was serious, and they were just like, dude, we thought you were just, grandstanding. So I guess that situation will be interesting to see play out. I don't think Canada or Greenland are going to be acquired by the United States. But I guess over the next couple months, we'll figure out. Amid Grab is setting up. Take a look. Where's Grab? It's had a rather quiet day, down 2.5%. Again, look, on Grab, my conviction is rock hard. I believe that Grab is going to do well, but it's going to take time. It's just one of those that's not going to be a quick move up to where I think you can get to, which is $10. So if you get in this name, you just got to be patient, bro. You got to put that money there and not look at it. I will keep you guys updated every day on the progress of the company, but it's a 4 billion share company. It's going to be a slow mover. It's not going to happen overnight. But the asymmetry is that it can go to $10 and certain options can go up much more than a double if it doubles. It's just going to take some time to see that play out. Robinhood giving back 53, 52.98. That's up 3.5% right here. Nvidia giving up 120 again, back to 119. And Rocket Lab right here at 28.34. Alibaba is up 4% on the day. Let's go back to CNBC, get some of their coverage. And then we'll find out when CARP goes live. I think they're talking right here about Oracle. And then we will keep waiting on CARP.
What you're hoping for. You still have a position in both Oracle and Nvidia, which I trimmed as well. So it's not like you're hoping for them to go down, but you took money out, so you are to a certain degree voting with your feet. At the end of the day, I have to characterize this as simple risk management. That's all it is. The threat landscape is different now than it was a week ago. It's higher. I'm still in both positions, but I have to respect the fact that it's not as free and easy as it was a week ago. And also tying into this, and this is what I think what you were talking about, at least as I perceived it with the software trade, is there does seem to be a leadership change in the market for the last several weeks, maybe even the last couple of months. We know the equal weight is outperforming. This doesn't mean that tech is now going to be consigned to the dustbin of history. Far from it. Tech should do just fine. But it is a time that somebody like me who has believed in the broadening for quite some time is willing to not only reduce risk, but take it from those areas where he thinks the puck has been great to where it's going to be going, which is the rest of the market.
He's talking in the third person again, Judge.
He does
Did I do that? Did I do that?
Yeah, you're referring to yourself as he? What's going on here?
Geez, I'm actually proud of myself.
All he asked you was, why did you sell Oracle? And you went biblical on us. I don't know. It's a lot.
Did I smiteth?
I find, look,
smote.
I'm thinking back to a tariff threat, sell GM.
Yeah.
Don't wait for the details.
Yeah.
Deep seek threat, trim Oracle. Don't wait for more details. How do you know that it is in fact the threat that you claim it is, and how the game has changed like you suggest it has?
Okay. I love your question. Let me be really clear.
I wish you didn't. I like it better when you don't, but it's okay.
That's okay. I'll give you something to fight with.
Jim doesn't know.
I don't know anything with certainty about the future. Neither does anyone else. Again, risk management. With GM, I had a little bit of insight, to be honest. I mean, Trump, the first administration was just awful. The trade wars were terrible for GM. I'd love to get back into GM. I mean, honestly, if the tariffs don't come through, that stock's what, 20% lower than it was before that news came out? And they're going to make, what, $11 a share? I know we're not talking about GM. Here's the point. You don't know with certainty, so you have to evaluate and always balance risk versus reward. With GM, I sold the whole position.
I think GM has other issues because of the automotive delinquency stuff we're dealing with, but you know, you could see the trade wars potentially impacting them as well. Let's get an update on Apple here, and then I will try to see if we can get CARP on, hopefully, in the next 10 to 15 minutes.
Perspective has sort of dramatically morphed into something that wasn't there.
They all
in
bent
1.0.
yeah, they all bent the knee, but he put on the red hat, and shareholders were interpreting that as good. That's what we need you to do right now.
So I mentioned, you know, Apple has a lot to prove tonight. There's no question about that, just given what the stock has done and the way that Wall Street has really turned negative on it over the last couple of weeks. You've had a number of downgrades, the likes of which you really haven't seen before, going into a print. I can't remember when the street has been this negative going into the print by this many different analysts, all because they're uncertain about AI and what it's going to mean for the upgrade cycle. You own the stock too. So this is the one of the three that we just talked about that you do own. How do you view this going in as you get another downgrade yesterday from OPI to perform from outperform?
So I think I sort of disagree with it's all because of AI. I think there was a narrative shift in the wake of the DeepSeek stuff where people thought Apple is screwed. They're building on OpenAI's platform. They don't have their own AI. The phones aren't selling. They can't sell AI in China, blah, blah, blah. Then when that news came out and they whacked all the AI stocks, Kevin's nodding, Apple caught the biggest bid we've seen all year. Because I think the narrative now shifts to, oh, wait a minute, maybe Tim Cook played it right all along, did not commit to spending $50 billion to build out a large language model, knowing that those LLMs were susceptible to becoming commoditized. And instead, Apple is now in a pole position to do something new in the aftermath, benefiting from cheaper, more efficient versions. So that's kind of like what we saw in the stock price. I don't know how long they'll hold on to that aura that they obtained by accident, but that's where it landed. I think the bigger issue for Apple is, number one, China. Number two, the refresh cycle is nothing special. Number three, it's unclear what the monetization is going to be from smarter Siri. By the way, Siri's still stupid. And Apple Intelligence, which clearly is not getting people off their couches to upgrade their phones at a faster rate than in previous model refresh cycles. And that's a bigger issue for the stock. It looks once again like it's 2023, 2024, slow to no growth. And that's going to weigh on this name at a 30-something times multiple. I don't think there's anything we could do about it as long-term shareholders, quite frankly. And I said this at the beginning of the year. I'm not excited about Apple's prospects in Q1.
Here you go, Steve Kovac. You've had a longtime shareholder who says, I'm not excited, gives you all the reasons why tonight, in very many ways, is its moment of truth.
No update on CARP. I agree with Josh's what he's saying about Apple, though. This is going to be an interesting quarter for Apple, dude. This is going to be one of those quarters where it's like, did they grow in the holiday season? And if they didn't, does the market even care, given it's down to start the year? Or does the market legit start thinking, why are we buying this thing? The buybacks cannot be the reason we keep juicing up Apple. But today, after the bell, we'll figure out or have a better understanding of what's going on there. Yeah, still waiting on CARP. I have no update, guys. I mean, I want to stay live until he goes live because I don't think you guys are going to be able to access his live unless you have television. But I don't know when he's going to go live. If they pre-recorded it, though, they might just do it on a different day. But I don't think they would. That's usually not what they do. They just play it later during the day. Their Twitter account has not updated anything about when he's going live. But if it is live, then that means they have to do it live. Oh, I got the message. My guy said I'll have an update in a minute. Okay. So I should be able to give you guys an update in a minute on what's happening with Palantir or what's happening with the CARP thing. Okay, let's do an update on NVIDIA. Let's see what they have to say about that, and then we'll keep going from there.
You trimmed NVIDIA. You trimmed NVIDIA now too?
I'm sorry, that was pretty good.
Dude,
Yeah, I did. Look, the stock's been a home run. I mean, what has it done? A triple for me in about 15 months, and
maybe you
full
should
credit.
trim it at somewhere around here, not like after it falls off the ski slope. And
shout out to Juba. It was Juba. It's literally a group chat with me, Chad, Iliano, and Juba. Peter, for those that are Palantir OGs. Juba is from the Reddit, Palantir Reddit. That's literally my plug, dude. This group chat is where I can get some details on when CARP is going live or not. But hopefully it looks like he's going to go live soon. I don't have the update yet, but if he does, then I'll be live covering it.
Gets hit with the avalanche.
I'm going to say this again. It's up like 3 times in 15 months, and I'm going to give full credit to Josh, who's been in it forever and is up like 1,000 times in it. But I have absolutely no hesitation on this. I'm amused, and I'm amused by the pushback on it. Still own it, but I think we have to take seriously the possibility, not the certainty, the possibility that CapEx, maybe not 2025, but 2026 starts to disappoint. I'm not saying that's definitely the case. If I thought that were definitely the case, I wouldn't have a position in it at all. But I think the possibility has increased over the last week that CapEx, particularly in 2026, will be lower than expected.
27 times earnings, though. This is the cheapest you've been able to buy forward earnings. This is the cheapest you've been able to buy NVIDIA, probably since I've been aware of the stock. It's
I'm not hating on it.
Not quite in Jenny Harrington territory, but it's in Jim Lebenthal territory.
I'm sorry, guys, but the interview is happening tomorrow. It's happening tomorrow. So no interview from CARP today. I'll be live tomorrow to cover it, but it looks like the Trump press conference delayed it today, and it will not be happening today. All right, well, It'll be on a Friday. Fridays are fun, right? So that's literally one day before earnings. So it'll be on Friday tomorrow. I don't have the time yet for tomorrow. I'll try to get you guys the time later on the close. Try to get you the exact time. I'm sure CNBC will probably update it later as well. But yeah, not today. Not today. Stay live until we get more carb. Yeah, just stay live for another 24 hours. We can. One day we're going to do the 24-hour stream. It's going to happen. One day. It will happen. Dude, when I move to my new apartment, hopefully in the summer, that's when we do a 24-hour stream. That'll be fun. I should have just like 10 guests, and every hour we have a new person on. It's like, it'll be cool. It'll be really cool. But yeah, I guess we're going to have to wait until tomorrow when this happens. All right, shout out to Peter Todd. For those that don't know him, let me put his Twitter right here as well. If you're following Palantir at all, you should definitely be following him on Twitter. He was the OG on Palantir's Reddit. Those who know him, his name was Juba, and he ended up getting a job working with social media for Palantir just because of starting that Reddit community. So he's been covering Palantir for a very long time, and he just texted me and said the interview will now happen tomorrow, and we will have to wait till tomorrow. Do 24 hours when Palantir hits $100. That's a good idea. When Palantir hits $100, that will be a hell of a day to do the 24-hour stream. Alex Carp did not speak today. For those that are joining, that'll be happening tomorrow. It is going to be happening tomorrow. It is not going to be happening today. We might as well stay for the market close, right? I mean, we only got 3. Dude, my life is just live. My life is just live. Chat says, to be clear, he is the one who posts on our main account now, from Reddit mod to running the main account. He is a legend. Yeah, dude. For those that don't know him, and again, some of the OG Palantir people probably know Juba, but if you've been in Palantir since probably $30 and beyond, you probably have to be at least 25 and below on Palantir. You know Juba started the Palantir Reddit, was moderating it, and then he did such a good job. He's now running the main Palantir social media account, which is awesome. Which, by the way, is crushing it. I don't know if you guys follow Palantir on Twitter, which I'm sure if you're an investor and you're on Twitter, you do follow that, but absolutely crushing it. Also, they released a new video today. We can probably end at least on that video if we don't have Carp, and we can watch that. But Juba's doing just a fantastic job pumping out the content and really retransforming the company's brand image. Speaking of Chad, by the way, in the chat, he is very close to 10,000 followers, about 400 away. So if you are not following Chad, let's definitely show some love to this guy. He is really the only reason why retail has a lot of access to Palantir. He made it an initiative last year to actually get the company to engage with all of us. And one of the reasons I got to go to AIPCon back in June of 2024 was because of him. So he absolutely deserves to get to 10,000. His brand has grown tremendously. And he used to work at a company that used Palantir software. And so he was actually a client before he joined the company. And he's just been covering the story and deeply understanding them for a long time. And he also ratioed me on my boots. So I guess if you like to see good ratios on my tweets, you will definitely find them by following him on Twitter. Because he doesn't disappoint. He doesn't disappoint when it comes to that. Oh my gosh, dude. I'm trying to find that boot tweet. It was a picture with Vlad and fucking Chad's getting like 1,000 likes under his post about my boots. I'm like, I just took a picture with the CEO of Robinhood, and Chad is over there swiping everyone's attention. He's like, hey guys, look at his stupid boots. And I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe this is happening. But he knows how to do it. He knows how to do it very well. Okay, so let's watch that final Palantir video they posted today. It's a 2-minute video, and it has to do with their partnership with Hyundai Heavy Industries, shipbuilding company in South Korea. Let's take a look at this, and then we'll be done for the day.
For many decades now, HD Hyundai has been leading the world's shipbuilding industry with the most innovative technologies.
지금까지 세계 최고의 엔지니어링 역량으로 세계 1등 조선소를 만들어 왔습니다. 이제 세계에서 가장 먼저 그리고 가장 빠르게 디지털 조선소에 도전하고 있는 것입니다.
조선소의 디지털 전환의 핵심은 전사의 데이터와 프로세스를 연결하는 통합 운영 워크플로우를 구축하고 각 업무 영역에서 데이터 기반의 의사결정을 할 수 있는 체계를 갖추는 것입니다. 이런 우리의 미션을 실현하기 위하여 팔란티어의 파운드리를 활용하고 있습니다. 우리는 설계부터 구매, 생산에 이르기까지 모든 업무 영역에 파운드리를 접목하고 있습니다.
조선소의 복잡한 프로세스와 데이터를 연결해 온톨로지를 구성하고 워크플로우를 최적화하면서 조선소가 오랫동안 풀지 못한 과제를 해결하고 있습니다. 뿐만 아니라 팔란티어 AIP를 통해서 조선소의 고유한 특성이 담긴 온톨로지를 사용하는 생성형 AI 솔루션을 만들고 있습니다.
우리는 5개의 선체 조립 공장에서 과부하 혹은 저부하가 예상되는 공정과 시점을 빠르게 식별하여 작업 인원, 시간 등의 가용 자원과 비용 측면에서의 최적화를 파운드리 기반의 플랫폼을 통해서 찾을 수 있게 되었습니다.
Okay, I actually didn't know the video was in Japanese, so I'll put the video in the chat. This is the first time I'm watching the video as well. So yeah, I wasn't even able to read the subtitles as well. So you guys can watch the video on your own. I didn't know it was in Japanese. I thought it was in English. But nonetheless, the point is they're pumping out a lot more content in regards to their relationship. Oh, Korean? Of course, of course. Of course, of course. Why not? Why not? Why wouldn't we end the stream on that? Of course. Of course. Of course it's Korean. Of course it's Korean. Dude, if I ever run for president, I got Jason in the chat who's half Japanese. Oh boy. Cancel culture, baby. I am running straight into it. Dude, the worst thing is I said they're in South Korea. I said the company is in South Korea. And then my stupid monkey brain is like, oh, wow, it has to be Japanese. Between this and the Indian accent, I mean, this is the type of high quality content that you guys get. This is it. This is it. Here's the link to the video for those that want to check it out. It's on Palantir's main page, but there's the link right there. So you guys can watch it slower and see the subtitles. Translated from Korean to English, not Japanese. And then also here's Peter's Twitter. Again, he's the guy running Palantir's social account. He's become a very good friend of mine. I got to meet him in New York City. Awesome, awesome dude. And he went from Reddit to running Palantir's Twitter, which is just legendary. And so super, super cool to see him get this opportunity. Jason says, I'm going to mix up my brown people since Mick clearly doesn't know his Asians. I can't even say anything, dude. I can't even justify it. I was just, I said it with so much confidence. I was like, yeah, guys, I didn't know this video was in Japanese. I said, I was like, yeah, it's in Japanese for sure. Well, it is what it is. It is what it is. Dude, if I ever run for Congress, there should be enough clips to cancel me by now. I think there's enough clips. Indian dude tries to do Indian accent, self-loathing, yada, yada, yada. There's probably enough clips out there. I just wish people would clip the jokes, dude. The jokes deserve to get more attention because they're good jokes. I mean, the joke I made this morning, did anyone catch that about the line? That was a good joke. You know, it was funny. I thought of making that joke yesterday. That was a joke I cooked up yesterday. As soon as Elon had that like mic drop moment, I made the connection between, okay, this is a line. I can make a joke right here. I can make a play on word, but I didn't say it because like it's Tesla earnings. Let me not say it. You know, let me not release all the humor. So this morning I was like, I'm going to say it. I'm going to fucking say it. I'm going to do it. It's like when I get the idea, I was like, I have to, like, I can't hold back this joke. Not today. This joke has to come out. Just say it was AI. That's a good idea. You can just say it's AI. All right. I think that's it for today. So CARP is not going to be live. Even Canadians know Mesa is in Arizona. You know, I should have known that, dude. I should have known that. Mesa is not like some random city in Arizona. It's kind of like Phoenix. I mean, it's not as big as Phoenix, but it's like I've heard of that before. But of course, I said it wrong. All right, cool. So that's it for today. We'll be live on the close, and CARP is not speaking today. Yes, it's canceled. CARP is tomorrow. The whole Trump press conference thing kind of delayed the whole thing. So I don't know. when he's, I don't know if it's gonna be live tomorrow, if it's pre-recorded, but it definitely will be happening tomorrow. Ruben, thank you for becoming a channel member. Appreciate it. Ray, thank you for becoming a channel member as well. Robinhood is up 313% in the last 10 months. I love it. Absolutely incredible. Devon NYC6, thank you for becoming a channel member as well. And yeah, thank you everybody for being here today. Thank you everyone for being here today. All right, word of the day. What do we got? It can't be any worse than me mixing up Japanese and Korean. Well, it's definitely a hard word to say. Of course it is. So what is this word? Entelechy. Entelechy? Entelechy?
Entelechy.
A realization or actuality as opposed to a potentiality. This feels like a very philosophical word. The community center was the, hold on.
Entelechy.
Entelechy. The community center was the entelechy of decades of fundraising and planning. The entelechy of art is about bringing imagination to life through creation. The entelechy of art is about bringing imagination to life throughout creation, a realization or actuality as opposed to a potentiality. Okay, so it's kind of like doing shit versus talking about shit. So it's more of a materialization of an abstraction versus an abstraction, which is just like another word for an idea in and of itself. I don't think anyone would ever use this word to describe like a like a realization or actuality, but there you go. You know who would use this word? Carp. Carp would bust out this word somehow in the middle of him talking, and everyone would go to Google and try to figure out what he just said. But other than Carp, I don't know who would say a word like this. All right, that's it. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you joining. We will be live at the market close, and we have Apple earnings today, so very important. We'll cover Apple earnings. Intel as well, Visa, so will be a big day with those three. Intel maybe getting bought out. Maybe we get some news updates on that. I don't think we're going to get any acquisition news today, but maybe some clarity on what's happening. Visa, important company in the financial ecosystem, and then Apple, Big Mac 7. Apple tends to not move on their earnings, but the results are going to be very important to see if this company can continue to maintain the growth that at least the street is wanting to see. All right, cool. That's it. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back